the arid foothills, where the earth is the color of toasted almonds and ancient stone. The afternoon sun hangs low and heavy, washing the rugged landscape in a rich, liquid gold. This is a Mediterranean scrubland of resilience, where wild rosemary and sun-baked thyme perfume a warm evening breeze. In the quiet seclusion of a limestone arroyo, sheltered from the sweeping gusts of the upper ridges, the brush sways in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. Here, nestled against the red-brown earth, a profound transition takes place under the wide-open sky. In the stillness of the sun-drenched canyon, a new life enters the world. Equine reproduction in this harsh environment is timed precisely to the vernal season, when subterranean moisture finally coaxes tender green shoots from the dry soil. The newborn foal lies damp and trembling upon the mineral-rich dust, its very first breath a sharp inhalation of cool air mixed with the scent of crushed sage. This inaugural gasp fills undeveloped lungs for the first time, triggering a complex cascade of physiological changes as the circulatory system shifts from fetal to independent life. The sheer stillness of the arroyo is broken only by the whisper of the breeze through the rustling scrub brush and the distant, melodic call of a red-billed chough soaring high above the cliffs. As the afternoon light deepens, casting long, soft shadows across the canyon walls, the quiet sanctuary holds its breath. The stage is set for an ancient bond to form, rooted in the timeless rhythms of the wild earth. For hours, the foal's existence was entirely aquatic, sheltered within the warm, rhythmic sanctuary of the womb. Now, exposed to the vast, open atmosphere of the foothills, the infant's skin registers the sudden, startling drop in ambient temperature. This acute thermal shift is a crucial biological trigger. As the cool air touches the wet, dense winter coat, an evolutionary adaptation packed with insulating guard hairs designed to stave off the chill of early spring nights. Millions of microscopic thermoreceptors fire across the skin. Inside the tiny chest, the mechanics of life execute a profound realignment. The first deep breath creates a dramatic drop in pressure within the thoracic cavity, forcing the tiny, uninflated alveoli of the lungs to blossom open for the very first time. Oxygen rushes into the bloodstream, causing the ductus arteriosus, the fetal blood vessel that once bypassed the lungs, to begin its swift, miraculous closure. The circulatory system completes its permanent, independent transformation, routing blood directly through newly oxygenated pathways. With every trembling inhalation, the newborn draws in the complex atmospheric signature of the arroyo, the sharp, medicinal tang of wild thyme, the mineral dust of sun-baked shale, and the faint, sweet musk of the mother standing close by. The sheer volume of the open world presses in upon senses that have known only muffled silence. Yet, amidst this overwhelming physiological upheaval, the rhythmic rise and fall of the small flank begins to steady, establishing a calm, enduring cadence to match the slow, steady breathing of the earth itself. Before the newborn even dares to lift its head, a deep, resonant vibration rolls through the warm spring air. The mother donkey lowers her muzzle, pressing her velvety lips against the damp flank of her infant. From deep within her chest, she produces a low, rumbling vocalization, a soft, vibrating hum that resonates at frequencies lower than 50 Hz. This acoustic signal is a vital evolutionary tool in the sparse Mediterranean foothills, carrying across the rocky arroyo without alerting distant predators. To the fragile foal, this maternal rumble serves as an auditory anchor in a sea of overwhelming new sensations. Because a newborn equid's auditory system is already well developed at birth, the sound penetrates directly through the skull bones and soft tissue, wrapping the infant in a familiar, acoustic blanket. It mimics the deep, muffled rhythms of the womb, assuring the nervous system that safety is close at hand. This acoustic communication is immediately paired with tactile reassurance. The mare begins a rhythmic, methodical licking, her rough tongue sweeping across the foal's damp coat. This instinctive grooming does more than simply clean. It provides essential sensory stimulation that activates the peripheral nervous system and accelerates circulatory recovery from birth. Every sweeping stroke releases a cascade of oxytocin in both mother and offspring, reinforcing the neurobiological foundation of their lifelong bond. As the mother's low purr continues to vibrate through the earth and air, the tiny foal responds. A soft, answering exhale slips from the pink nostrils, acknowledging the call. In this quiet exchange of sound and touch, the chaotic rush of birth settles into a profound, tranquil harmony, knitting their two lives securely together beneath the golden canopy of the afternoon. The mother's warm, steady breath sweeps over the newborn's flanks as her diligent ministrations continue. Her wide, flat incisors and sandpaper-textured tongue move in synchronized, rhythmic sweeps across the damp, matted fur. This persistent licking serves a crucial physiological purpose in the high foothills. As the moisture evaporates from the thick, protective neonatal coat, friction from the tongue stimulates superficial cutaneous blood vessels, driving a vital surge of warmth deep into the core tissues. Circulation rapidly accelerates throughout the tiny, delicate frame, flushing oxygenated blood to the extremities and activating the brown adipose tissue that helps regulate core body temperature as the afternoon chill begins to threaten. Each upward stroke of the mare's head massages the muscles of the shoulders and neck, priming the nervous system for the monumental task of standing. With every pass, the rich scent of amniotic fluid mixes with the aromatic oils of crushed wild thyme and sun-warmed dust rising from the rocky soil. The mare inhales deeply, capturing the distinct chemical signature of her offspring, imprinting the unique scent profile into her memory to ensure absolute recognition amid any future herd movements. The foal relaxes beneath this rhythmic, heavy pressure, surrendering entirely to the gentle momentum of the cleaning. Its breathing slows from a frantic flutter into a deep, measured cadence, perfectly synchronized with the maternal heartbeat thrumming against the earth. The dampness vanishes, replaced by a soft, dry down that catches the amber light, glowing like spun copper against the gray stones of the arroyo. As the newborn rests in the amber glow, its form reveals an extraordinary biological blueprint forged by generations of survival in these unforgiving foothills. Most striking are the oversized, velvety pinnae, the external ears, which dominate the small head. These remarkable structures are already fully articulated, capable of independent rotation across 180 degrees. Each expansive ear acts as a biological satellite dish, lined with delicate blood vessels that not only capture the faintest rustle of the scrub brush and the distant calls of passing raptors, but also serve a vital thermoregulatory function, dissipating excess heat when the midday sun bears down on the arid arroyo. Beneath the plush, copper-tinted coat lies a skeletal framework of deceptive strength. The cannon bones and pasterns are remarkably thick and dense, an evolutionary adaptation that provides immediate structural integrity to the newborn's joints. Unlike the fragile, spindly legs of forest-dwelling cervids, this infant equid is built with robust, shock-absorbing proportions designed to navigate jagged limestone rocks and steep, uneven terrain. Heavy hooves tipped with a soft, rubbery protective pad known as the deciduous shoe cushion the tender soles against the sharp stones until the first miles of travel harden the keratin. Every proportion, from the broad forehead protecting the developing brain to the deep chest cavity housing resilient lungs, speaks of a resilient design optimized for endurance, balance, and quiet grace in a timeless landscape. As the long shadows of the late afternoon stretch across the rocky arroyo, the golden light softens into a deep, amber stillness. Exhausted by the immense energy required for birth and its first sensory explorations, the newborn foal settles into the warm earth. Its delicate limbs fold neatly beneath a torso still pulsing with the steady rhythm of a resting heartbeat. soft, earth-scented ground retains the day's solar heat, radiating a gentle warmth that wraps the infant in a soothing thermal embrace, helping to stabilize its core body temperature as the ambient air begins to cool. Standing sentinel beside her sleeping offspring, the mother donkey remains a pillar of vigilant calm. She shifts her weight with a quiet, muffled slide of hooves against the gravel, her massive body casting a protective shadow over the resting foal. Every few moments, she lowers her head to inhale the infant's scent, a biological reinforcement of their unbreakable bond, while her own ears swivel independently to track the fading sounds of the surrounding scrubland. A warm evening breeze whispers through the rosemary and rock rose bushes, carrying the scent of dry earth and blossoming thyme. In this quiet sanctuary, the foal rests in profound peace. Conservation of energy is critical now. Every heartbeat and steady breath fuels the physiological recovery and muscle repair needed for the upcoming milestones of standing and walking. The heavy eyelids droop, and the rhythmic rise and fall of the small chest syncs with the slow, pulsing cadence of the natural world. Enfolded in maternal protection and bathed in the fading golden glow, the infant drifts deeper into sleep, trusting entirely in the quiet resilience of the ancient foothills. The sun dips below the sheltering ridge of the hollow, spilling long amber shadows across a dense carpet of spring clover. A gentle evening wind whispers through the budding hawthorn trees, carrying the sweet, heavy scent of blooming wildflowers and damp earth. In the quiet, dimming light, the newborn foal rests completely flat against the soil, a tangle of astonishingly long limbs absorbing the last warmth of the day. At this tender stage, the infant's muscular system is primed by instinct, waiting for the precise hormonal cues of the twilight hour. Nearby, the mare lowers her massive neck, releasing a low, resonant rumble from deep within her chest. This maternal vocalization vibrates through the ground, a seismic signal that triggers the foal's first physiological awakening. Responding to the rich, tactile frequencies of her call, the tiny creature stirs. A tremor ripples along the sleek, damp coat. Slowly, the foal extends its remarkably elongated forelegs straight out into the clover, followed by a luxurious arching of the spine. Anatomically, a foal is born with nearly adult-length legs, an evolutionary adaptation designed for rapid predator evasion, making these initial stretches a comical yet vital rehearsal for mobility. As the distant evening song of a thrush drifts downward and the low hum of dusk insects begins to rise, the infant flexes its tiny, rubbery joints. The soft cloven teeth rustles softly beneath the movement, grounding the awakening life in the rich ecosystem of the meadow. With heavy, drooping eyelids slowly fluttering open against the fading daylight, the newborn prepares its nervous system for the great upward journey. Suspended in the peaceful, cooling embrace of the twilight, the infant gathers its limbs beneath its small torso, folding the long, spindly legs inward like carefully arranged reeds. This postural adjustment shifts the center of gravity, engaging the deep, stabilizing muscles of the spine and shoulders. Pushing upward with sudden, uncoordinated strength, the newborn attempts to lift its chest from the clover. The soft earth gives way slightly under the pressure of tiny, uncured hooves, creating an uneven foundation that tests the absolute limits of joint flexibility. For a brief, suspended moment, the front legs lock into a rigid brace, trembling under the unexpected burden of body weight. The neuromuscular pathways, firing for the very first time, struggle to coordinate the massive leverage of those disproportionately long cannon bones and pasterns. A sudden wobble ripples through the narrow shoulders, and the balance tilts precariously to the left. With a gentle sigh of yielding breath, the fragile frame collapses softly back onto the damp, fragrant meadow, folding its limbs in a heap of exhausted relief. Yet the pause is fleeting. Guided by ancient, hardwired motor programs, the infant immediately tries again, tucking the hind legs closer to the belly. The hocks flex, absorbing the tension before snapping outward in a second hopeful thrust. Every muscle fiber and tendon works in quiet concert, learning the exact angles required to defy gravity on the shifting soil. As the surrounding woods settle into the deep violet hush of evening, the young creature rests its head upon the cool earth for just a heartbeat, gathering its strength before attempting the ascent once more. The tactile feedback of the meadow floor plays a critical role in this delicate balancing act. Underneath the infant's uncured hooves, the rich, damp spring soil is a dynamic terrain of crushed clover and yielding moss. As the foal pushes upward for a third time, those tiny, soft padded hooves, still bearing the remnant protective cushion known as the eponychium, press into the cool, dark earth. Instead of offering a firm grip, the loamy ground shifts slightly, parting under the concentrated pressure of concentrated body weight. This micro-slippage forces the nervous system to make split-second recalibrations. Proprioceptors embedded deep within the joints and tendons relay urgent messages back to the developing cerebellum, signaling the need for minute muscular adjustments. The mother offers a low, rumbling hum from deep within her chest, a steady auditory anchor that reassures the unsteady infant through the physical struggle. With the maternal frequency vibrating through the air, the foal reorganizes its limbs. The front knees lock once more, but this time, the hooves dig fractionally deeper, finding purchase in the root-woven thatch beneath the clover. Every tendon in the long legs stretches taut, acting as natural spring-loaded cables that help bear the load with minimal muscular fatigue. The earth yields just enough to cushion the strain, yet provides the necessary friction for the tiny hooves to hold their place. Balance is achieved, if only for a few trembling seconds, upon the breathing, living carpet of the spring floor. The trembling subsides, replaced by a profound, statuesque stillness. For the very first time, all four slender legs align beneath the delicate barrel of the torso, bearing the full weight of the newborn frame. The skeletal anatomy locks into a temporary suspension, supported by nature's own passive stay apparatus, an intricate system of tendons and ligaments that minimizes the energy required to stand. Up high, in the crisp twilight air, the foal's large, velvety ears begin to twitch. They swivel independently, capturing the rich acoustic tapestry of the sheltered hollow. A gentle breeze whispers through the rustling leaves of the nearby trees, while late-season insects hum a soft, rhythmic lullaby close to the damp ground. Faint, distant birdsong drifts from the darkening tree line, marking the gentle transition from day to evening. Every sensory input is processed by a brand new nervous system absorbing the vastness of the world. The mother stands close, a warm, protective mountain of familiar scent and reassuring presence, anchoring the infant's expanding universe. On steady, newly conquered hooves, the small creature holds its ground against the fading light, breathing deeply of the sweet clover-scented air as the first stars begin to blink softly into the darkening spring sky. With balance achieved, the next neurological milestone begins to unfold. The brain of the young equid fires a cascade of electrical impulses down the spinal cord, signaling the delicate joints to bend and unbend. These are the very first voluntary commands of locomotion. The right foreleg lifts in a hesitant arc, hovering for a suspended moment in the cool evening air before reaching downward. The small hoof connects with the soft, clover-sprinkled earth, sinking gently into the damp soil. Weight shifts forward in a delicate, uncoordinated transfer, and the hind legs follow with a slight, endearing hop to keep pace. It is a delightfully clumsy choreography, yet it represents millions of years of mammalian evolution successfully translating from instinct into action. Only a few short paces separate the newborn from the maternal anchor. The mother remains a towering, steadfast silhouette in the gathering dusk, offering a low, rumbling hum of encouragement from deep within her chest. guided by this resonant vibration and the rich, familiar scent of warm mare's milk and summer grass. The infant bridges the distance. The journey takes mere seconds, but it bridges an immense developmental chasm. The tiny muzzle reaches the soft flank of the adult, pressing gently against the velvet warmth of her coat. The mother lowers her head, nuzzling the damp crown of her offspring with tender deliberation. Safe within the protective circle of her presence, the little traveler relaxes its hard-won posture. The slender legs fold gracefully beneath the barrel once more, and the foal settles softly into the fragrant clover to rest its weary, growing muscles as the quiet night envelops the hollow. The transition from motion to stillness is swift, dictated by muscles that have burned through their initial stores of glycogen and are now calling out for recovery. Deep within the central nervous system, exhaustion triggers a protective wave of parasympathetic activity, slowing the heart rate and inviting profound relaxation. The air cools rapidly as the sun slips completely below the horizon, and the fragrant clover exhales the day's accumulated warmth into the quiet evening. Rest is not merely a passive state for a newborn equid. It is an essential biological requirement for tissue repair and neurological consolidation. During this phase of quiet sleep, the rapid firing of motor neurons experienced during the afternoon's trials gives way to restorative slow-wave sleep. Growth hormone surges through the bloodstream, quietly lengthening the delicate long bones and reinforcing the intricate connective tissues of the tendons and ligaments that worked so hard just moments before. Nearby, the mother stands like a quiet sentinel, her dark silhouette blending into the deepening indigo of the twilight. She shifts her weight with a soft rustle of dry grass, keeping a steady, protective vigil. Her ears swivel independently, capturing the nocturnal rustle of leaves and the gentle hum of resting insects, filtering out any potential threat to the fragile life nestled at her feet. The gentle wind whispers through the sheltered hollow, carrying the sweet, earthy scent of damp soil and blooming spring wildflowers. Safe in the profound sanctuary of maternal presence and the soothing cadence of the ecosystem settling into night, the little foal breathes deeply and evenly. Its eyelids grow heavy, and the delicate limbs twitch softly in a dream of running across vast, open plains, resting completely under the vast, starlit canopy of its very first night. The golden hues of sunset slowly fade into deep, velvety indigo as long shadows stretch across the arid foothills. Day gives way to evening, and the bustling energy of the desert landscape softens into a quiet hush. High above the valley floor, the mother donkey senses the shifting temperature and guides her newborn away from the exposed ridge. Step by careful step, she leads him down the winding game trails into the sheltered sanctuary of a quiet ravine. Here, nestled between towering walls of ancient stone, the air is remarkably still. The towering rock faces act as a natural buffer, shielding the fragile pair from the brisk evening winds that begin to sweep across the open plains. In this protected microclimate, the ambient temperature remains stable, offering a gentle refuge for an animal that has only just begun to experience the rhythms of the earth. As the last lingering warmth of the sun dissipates from the rocks, the deep silence of the desert night takes hold. The newborn, whose long legs still feel heavy from a full day of unsteady exploration, closely shadows his mother's flank. He matches her unhurried pace, feeling the steady, reassuring cadence of her movements. The transition from active daylight to nocturnal calm washes over the ravine, bringing with it a sense of profound peace. Soft cricket chirps begin to vibrate through the dry brush, weaving a subtle acoustic blanket over the landscape. Surrounded by the towering, protective stone walls, the little foal feels the comforting presence of his mother, anchoring him safely in the gathering dark. Standing as a steadfast barrier against the cooling night air, the mother positions her sturdy frame beside the fragile foal. Her large body blocks any nocturnal drafts, creating an essential microclimate of warmth in the chill of the ravine. She angles her broad shoulders toward the mouth of the gorge, transforming herself into a living bulwark. This deliberate posturing is a masterclass in equine thermoregulation. By sheltering the newborn from moving air, she dramatically reduces convective heat loss from his damp, newly dried birth coat. While the foal begins to sink toward the soft earth, letting his slender legs fold gracefully beneath him, his mother remains entirely upright. Equine biology dictates this division of labor. Because prey animals cannot afford a deep, vulnerable slumber for the entire herd simultaneously, the mother assumes full responsibility for predator vigilance. Her long, mobile ears swivel independently through the darkness, catching the faint rustling of dry leaves and the distant, resonant hoot of an owl echoing against the stone. She breathes out slowly, a warm plume of air dissolving into the starlit quiet. Every muscle in her flank remains poised to react, yet her presence radiates an immovable tranquility. The rhythmic, deep inhalation of her breath serves as a living metronome, reassuring the resting newborn that he is safe. With her body heat radiating against his side and her senses sweeping the perimeter, the little one settles completely into the earth, cradled by the profound devotion of the maternal shield. Overcome by the gentle exhaustion of its very first day of life, the young foal finally succumbs to the heavy pull of sleep. His long, spindly legs bend gracefully at the joints, folding neatly beneath his small frame as he lowers himself down onto the soft, sandy earth of the ravine floor. This is a crucial developmental milestone. Unlike mature horses that often snatch their rapid eye movement sleep while standing, a newborn foal requires the total muscular relaxation of lying flat to achieve truly restorative, deep sleep. For a brief moment, the little one rests on his sternum, blinking heavy eyelids against the darkness, before he lets his slender neck relax completely. He extends his small head downward until his velvety muzzle rests directly upon the cool earth. His eyes drift shut, surrendering to the profound peace of his first true nocturnal sleep cycle. Inside his tiny body, complex physiological adjustments take place. His heart rate slows to a steady, calm rhythm, and his breathing deepens, syncing subconsciously with the slow, resonant inhalations of his mother standing just inches away. Every muscle in his growing limbs unwinds, releasing the tension of those first hesitant footsteps taken under the fading twilight hours only a short while ago. Safe within the sheltered microclimate created by his mother's massive, warm flank, the foal drifts deeper into slumber. His small coat rises and falls with each quiet breath, perfectly insulated against the midnight chill. Cradled by the ancient earth and wrapped in the unyielding vigilance of maternal devotion, he rests in complete and utter security, embraced by the profound stillness of the Starlit ravine. All around the sleeping foal, the arid ravine transforms into a gentle acoustic haven. The desert night is rarely silent. Instead, it breathes with a low, continuous frequency of life. From the crevices of the sun-baked stones and the dry stems of desert scrub, a steady, rhythmic hum rises from colonies of crickets. Their synchronized chirps weave an unbroken tapestry of sound, creating a natural white noise that rolls softly across the sandy floor. Higher up on the jagged rock faces, a great horned owl issues a low, resonant hoot that echoes distantly through the canyon. The sound is ancient and unhurried, fading harmlessly into the vast expanse of the starlit sky. A gentle current of night air threads its way through the valley, stirring the stiff leaves of creosote bushes and creating a dry, papery rustle that whispers over the ground. Every sensory input is filtered through the deep veil of slumber, perceived not as a threat, but as part of a safe, living environment. Even the distant, muffled crunch of gravel shifting under the foot of a far-off wanderer blends into the background of the nocturnal landscape. These ambient vibrations register faintly, but the foal does not stir, He remains cradled within this symphony of natural sounds, anchored by the most important rhythm of all, the steady, lowing breath of his mother standing guard beside him. Her quiet inhalations match the cadence of the desert breeze, wrapping him in a secure auditory blanket as the long, peaceful hours drift quietly by under the ancient constellations. High above the sheltered canyon floor, a brilliant blanket of stars arches across the clear, velvet sky. The constellations wheel slowly through the vastness of space, casting a soft, silvery glow over the quiet ravine. In this celestial light, the landscape is rendered in shades of charcoal, ash, and pale pearl, wrapping the resting pair in an ethereal, otherworldly beauty. Bathed in this gentle luminescence, the newborn foal rests deeply against his mother's warm flank. Here, beneath the ancient eyes of the cosmos, a profound biological synchronization takes place. The slow, rhythmic breathing of the mother acts as a natural anchor, a steady physical metronome that reassures the sleeping infant in the deepest layers of his slumber. Every rise and fall of her robust chest transfers a soothing vibration through the cool earth and directly into the foal's resting frame. This shared cadence does more than simply comfort. It reinforces an ancient, hardwired bond of security and trust. For an equine newborn, sleep is a vulnerable state, yet safety is measured not by sight, but by touch and sound. The steady sound of her breath tells his developing nervous system that the world is calm, that vigilance is currently handled, and that restoration can safely continue. His small body relaxes even further, muscles melting completely into the welcoming sand as his breathing falls gently into harmony with hers. Under the vast, starlit canopy, suspended in a timeless bubble of warmth and quiet devotion, the young life is utterly at peace. As the deep hours wear on, a subtle shift begins to move through the canyon air. The brilliant canopy of stars overhead starts to soften, fading from piercing points of white to a pale, misty silver as the western horizon lightens just a fraction. A quiet stillness settles over the ravine, heavier and cooler than the midnight hours, carrying the crisp, pure scent of approaching morning. In this hushed hour before sunrise, the mother donkey stirs. Her large ears swivel gracefully, catching the faint rustle of a distant breeze waking among the high rocks. With a slow, deliberate movement, she shifts her weight, her hooves turning softly in the sand as she prepares her body to greet the new day. Her gentle motion sends a mild vibration through the earth, a natural alarm clock that coaxes the foal upward from the deep pools of restorative sleep. The young newborn stretches his long legs one by one, blinking sleepily against the pale twilight. His thick birth coat, which has served him so faithfully as an insulating blanket against the nocturnal chill, traps the remaining warmth of the night as he rises to stand beside her. Above them, the very highest peaks of the ravine catch the first elusive breath of dawn. A delicate wash of rose and amber light touches the ancient stone, painting the jagged silhouettes against a pale turquoise sky. The night has yielded gently to the morning, and the sheltered valley rests in a peaceful, waiting hush. High above the sleeping valley, the first pale blush of dawn cuts through a thick blanket of silver mist, painting the crest of the rocky ridge in soft amber light. Here, exposed to the wide expanse of the waking world, the cool spring air carries the gentle sigh of a morning wind moving through dormant grasses. Sheltered in a quiet hollow of ancient stone, two distinct forms rest motionless. An experienced mare lies in a posture of deep, protective repose, while tucked closely against her flank is her newborn foal, a delicate silhouette of long, spindly legs in a velvet soft coat. As the sunlight slowly warms the earth, the stillness begins to gently shift. The atmosphere fills with the quiet, layered sounds of the awakening wilderness, the distant, melodic chime of early birdsong echoing upward from the misty canyon below, and the faint, dry rustle of last season's grass bending to the breeze. Deep within this tranquil setting, the infant's nervous system transitions from the quiet slumber of night toward waking awareness. Large, oversized ears, an anatomical marvel designed to capture even the softest environmental cues, twitch involuntarily against the morning chill. A soft tremor runs through the foal's slender limbs as muscle tone returns, preparing the young body for the day ahead. The mare remains entirely attuned to every subtle shift, her dark eyes reflecting the growing light as she lowers her head to breathe in the familiar, comforting scent of her offspring, reinforcing the ancient bond that holds them safe upon the mountain. Breaking the stillness of the high plateau, the mare issues a low, resonant rumble deep within her chest. This maternal frequency vibrates through the cool morning air, a specialized communication designed to stir the sleeping infant. Her warm breath mingles with the mist as she continues her rhythmic, low-pitched vocalizations, gently encouraging her newborn to meet the day. Instinct guides the young equine's response. Driven by millions of years of evolutionary programming, the foal lifts its small head, blinking heavy eyes against the amber light. Gathering the strength in its delicate frame, the infant begins the intricate neurological task of coordination. Long, gangly legs fold and unfold as the little one pushes upward, testing the ground below. The first attempt is wonderfully clumsy. Knees wobble and slip against the weathered stone as the slender body struggles against gravity. Yet, with a second determined heave, the foal locks its joints into a natural anatomical stay apparatus, a remarkable skeletal adaptation that allows horses to stand effortlessly with minimal muscular effort. Upright at last, the newborn sways gently in the breeze. The ambient sounds of the mountain embrace them. The soft rustle of dry grass, the faint clicking of hooves finding purchase on slate, and the rising chorus of distant birdsong from the valley far below. Standing beside its towering mother, bathed in the golden warmth of the new dawn, the foal lets out a soft, breathy huff, completely secure within the shelter of the ancient ridge. With a gentle pivot, the mare shifts her weight, positioning her massive form to shelter her fragile offspring from the persistent mountain breeze. She offers a series of rhythmic, low-pitched grunts, a comforting vocalization that guides the newborn along her flank. The foal, seeking warmth and sustenance, responds with an innate, sweeping nudge of its velvety muzzle against the mare's soft underside, searching patiently until it finds the source of life. This first daylight meal is far more than simple nourishment. The thick, yellowish fluid flowing now is colostrum, a biological masterpiece packed with concentrated proteins, essential vitamins, and, most crucially, maternal antibodies. Because the equine placenta prevents large molecules from passing to the fetus during gestation, the newborn enters the world entirely devoid of an active immune system. This miraculous initial milk bridges that dangerous gap. The infant's delicate intestinal lining is momentarily permeable, allowing vital immune globulins to pass directly into the bloodstream, conferring passive immunity against the myriad pathogens waiting in the wider ecosystem. As the rhythmic, swallowing sounds break the quiet of the ridge, the physiological architecture of the young equid responds instantly. Warmth spreads through the slender limbs, restoring vigor to muscles that mere moments ago trembled with fatigue. The mare stands motionless, her large, dark eyes half closed in tranquility, occasionally dropping her head to nuzzle the tiny back pressed against her side. Every gentle breath and soft nudge reinforces the ancient bond between mother and child, sealing a pact of survival written in the quiet hours of the high-altitude dawn. With a belly full of liquid warmth and renewed energy pulsing through slender legs, the young equid prepares to test the world beyond its birthplace. The mother steps back just a fraction, offering a quiet, encouraging exhale that stirs the pale alpine grass. The foal gathers its limbs beneath its small frame, pushes upward with an uncoordinated jolt, and finds its footing upon the weathered stone of the high plateau. Locomotion at this tender stage is a vital exercise in neuromuscular coordination. Every clumsy stride fires millions of developing neurons, teaching delicate joints and soft hooves how to interact with the uneven terrain. The ground here is a mosaic of slate, ancient granite, and tufts of resilient spring vegetation, presenting a dynamic obstacle course for a creature barely hours old. The mare maintains a steady, watchful presence just a shoulder width away, her imposing body acting as a living windbreak and a constant point of spatial reference. As they begin a slow, meandering walk across the perimeter of the ridge, the infant pauses to lower its velvety muzzle. Whiskers brush against a cold, lichen-dusted boulder, and large, dark eyes blink sleepily against the brightening morning. Soft clicks of tiny hooves on stone echo quietly in the thin mountain air, blending with the gentle sigh of the wind sweeping up from the valley below. Each tentative step builds strength in the growing skeleton, forging the endurance required for the long journeys ahead in this vast, shared ecosystem. A few steps further along the stony crest, the little foal halts once more, drawn to the intricate details of the earth below. The tip of its nose, velvety and pink-tinged, extends downward to explore the dormant soil of early spring. Specialized tactile whiskers, densely packed with sensitive nerve endings, sweep across the ground, mapping the microtopography of weathered slate and subterranean moisture. These vibrissae act as crucial sensory tools for a young herbivore, translating the physical textures of grit, damp loam, and fragile moss into immediate neurological feedback. Beside a patch of dwarf alpine clover, the infant inhales deeply. Its delicate nostrils flare, taking in a rich cocktail of scents carried upward on the thermal currents, the mineral tang of ancient rock, the sweet, earthy aroma of thawed humus, and the subtle, nutrient-rich perfume of emerging shoots. This active olfactory sampling helps calibrate the developing brain to the chemistry of the surrounding ecosystem, laying the physiological foundation for future foraging behavior. Large, oversized ears swivel independently in response to the environment, catching the dry rustle of last year's grasses brushing against stone, alongside the rising, melodic notes of distant mountain birds. Every touch and scent is absorbed with quiet, sleepy curiosity. The mother remains close, her dark muzzle resting gently near the foal's arched neck, offering reassurance as the tiny creature learns to read the complex language of the high plateau. The rhythmic beating of the morning wind smooths over the ridge, wrapping the resting pair in a tranquil cocoon of sound as the earth continues to warm under the gentle touch of spring. As the morning sun fully ascends over the rugged terrain, the vibrant activity on the high ridge gradually slows into a peaceful stillness. The radiant light warms the dense, woolly coat of the infant, helping to regulate its body temperature naturally after the cool hours of dawn. Exhausted by its first grand exploration of the world, the foal's long, spindly legs fold gracefully beneath its small body, settling into the weathered slate earth beside the mare. The mother shifts her weight with a slow, deliberate cadence, positioning her massive bulk to serve as a living windbreak against the gentle morning breeze. Her dark, intelligent eyes remain half-closed, yet she stays acutely aware of the vast ecosystem surrounding them. Every few moments, her skin twitches to deter persistent flies, and her large, velvety ears pivot effortlessly backward to catch the soft, rustling grass and the fading notes of distant birdsong. Resting close together, the pair shares a quiet rhythm of synchronized breathing. The infant's chest rises and falls in steady, slow intervals, processing the incredible influx of sensory data. Hormones, a nutrient-dense colostrum gathered throughout the morning. This deep, restorative slumber is vital for the rapid neurological development and muscle recovery required of a precocial mammal designed to travel across vast landscapes. The wind eases into a soft, steady hum, smoothing over the plateau and bathing the resting animals in comforting warmth. Surrounded by the timeless expanse of the awakening valley, the foal drifts deeper into sleep, cradled safely within the unwavering protection of the maternal bond, deeply at peace under the open spring sky. The Mediterranean pasture lies draped in a heavy, silver-blue veil of pre-dawn stillness. A gentle wind whispers through the silvery canopies of ancient olive trees, carrying the damp, earthy fragrance of dew-kissed grasses and wild thyme. In this quiet hour before the sunrise, the landscape breathes slowly, resting under a canopy of fading stars. Shielded from the lingering chill by the broad, comforting flank of its mother, a young donkey foal slumbers deeply. Its tiny body is wrapped in a thick, remarkably soft juvenile coat, an evolutionary marvel of dense underfur designed to trap body heat against the brisk spring air. Every inhalation brings the steady, reassuring rhythm of the mare's breathing, a natural metronome that grounds the infant in total security. The mare stands motionless, a towering silhouette of calm vigilance. Her own winter coat, now shedding to reveal the sleek bronze-gray summer hair beneath, acts as a living thermal barrier. She presses her side gently against her offspring, creating a microclimate of shared warmth that wards off the dropping temperatures of the pre-dawn hours. Around them, the pasture slumbers softly. Blades of grass bend under the heavy weight of morning moisture, glistening like scattered diamonds in the dim, pearlescent light. A distant nightbird calls out once, its melancholy note dissolving into the rustling leaves overhead. There is no urgency here, only the quiet suspension of time between the darkness of night and the gentle promise of day. Nestled safely within the sheltering embrace of maternal warmth, the infant rests completely undisturbed, its growing muscles relaxing in the cool, cradling embrace of the earth. Slowly, the sleeping foal stirs, lifting its head as the first pale sliver of dawn touches the horizon. Even before its eyes adjust to the dim light, the young animal's most remarkable feature swings into motion. Resting upon its small crown are two oversized, velvety ears, known in biology as pinnae. These grand acoustic receivers are marvels of evolutionary engineering, disproportionately large for the infant's slender frame, yet perfectly calibrated for survival in the wide, open Mediterranean expanse. Supported by a complex network of over a dozen specialized muscles, the pinnae begin to move. Unlike the rigid ears of many predators, the foal's ears possess independent mobility, capable of rotating nearly 180 degrees. One vast shell pivots forward to catch the soft rustling of leaves in the olive grove, while the other swivels backward, tuning into the subtle, rhythmic chewing of the herd behind them. This incredible range of motion allows the young donkey to map its acoustic environment in absolute 360-degree precision without ever turning its head. Inside these expansive funnels, delicate cartilaginous ridges capture low-frequency sounds traveling across vast distances over the open pasture land. The deep, rumbling vibrations of earth and distant hoofbeats on grass are funneled effortlessly down the auditory canals, translating the silent-seeming landscape into a rich symphony of information. As a gentle breeze sweeps through the grass, causing the long tips of the ears to twitch in unison, the foal processes the ambient sounds of the waking world. Every subtle shift in the wind and every distant bird song is caught, measured, and understood, anchoring the young animal safely within the collective awareness of its family. Closer to home, the acoustic landscape grows more complex. A sudden, dry rustling sweeps through the low-lying scrub brush at the pasture's edge. signaling the nocturnal scurry of ground-dwelling insects beginning to settle for the day. Instantly, both oversized pinnae snap toward the disturbance. The foal pauses, its developing brain cataloging the dry, papery scrape of beetle shells against fallen olive twigs. It listens deeper, comparing this fleeting, harmless vibration against the neural templates of safety passed down through generations. Just inches away, the heavy, shifting weight of an adult herd member breaks the rhythm of the dawn. A mature mare pivots on the dew-drenched sod, her hooves on grass producing a dull, muffled thud that vibrates gently up through the soil and into the foal's delicate hoof walls. The infant's ears instantly track the low-frequency resonance, swiveling downward to measure the proximity of the massive flank. There is no alarm in the sound, only the reassuring, predictable cadence of family life. With every passing minute, the young donkey weaves these acoustic threads together, separating the background hum of the sleeping wilderness from the vital, meaningful signals of the herd. The wind sighs through the distant mastic trees, a long and steady hiss that the velvet-tipped ears filter out as mere weather. Yet when a tiny nocturnal moth flutters too close to the infant's muzzle, the microscopic air currents are registered with startling clarity. By listening intently, the foal remains seamlessly anchored to the tranquil, waking world. Out of the dim indigo shadows, a low, resonant vibration travels through the cool air. It is not the wind through the mastic trees, nor the shifting weight of the herd. It is the mother leaning her heavy neck downward to bridge the small expanse between them. From deep within her chest rises a soft, rumbling grunt, a frequency so low it vibrates more through the earth and skin than through the open air. This is the maternal anchor of the early dawn. The foal tilts its head, immediately answering with an airy, breathy exhale from pink nostrils. This delicate puff of warm air meets the chill of the morning, briefly condensing into a tiny cloud of mist before dissolving. In the quiet sanctuary of the pre-dawn, these subtle vocal exchanges serve as an invisible tether. The dam's vocal folds produce a modulated, pulsing hum that signals absolute constancy. It is an acoustic signature etched with safety, reminding the infant of its exact place within the protective circle of the family group. Equine vocal communication relies heavily on these closed-mouth grunts and soft snorts, frequencies that carry just far enough to reach a nursing calf without broadcasting a position to unseen predators waiting along the scrubland's edge. As the mother continues her rhythmic breathing, the infant absorbs the cadence. Each low vibration massages the foal's developing nervous system, lowering its heart rate and smoothing away the lingering startle responses of the night. Wrapped in this acoustic embrace, the young donkey leans its weight slightly against the maternal flank, letting the reassuring warmth seep inward. The gentle murmurs fill the space between them, a quiet language of belonging spoken in the quietest hours before the sun breaks the horizon. Following the low cadence of the maternal hum, a gentle restlessness begins to stir within the young donkey. The cool moisture of the spring grass has settled deeply into its winter coat, chilling the skin beneath and inspiring the first intentional movements of the morning. Rising from a resting position is a complex neurological challenge for an infant ungulate, requiring the precise coordination of developing motor pathways and sudden shifts in center of gravity. The foal gathers its slender legs beneath its body, folding the long cannon bones compactly against the chest. Large pinnae flick forward, catching the quiet, rhythmic settling of the herd as others too begin to shift. With a soft, preparatory sigh, the little animal extends its neck forward, using the weight of its head as a pendulum to gain momentum. First, the forelimbs unfold in a jerky, delicate extension, pressing against the dew-slicked blades of grass. For a fleeting second, balance hangs suspended between the earth and sky. Then, the hindquarters engage, driving upward through strong hocks to bring the small body completely vertical. Standing on unsteady joints, the foal wobbles slightly in the crisp air. The delicate hoof walls, soft still from the damp night, slip minimally on the wet soil before finding purchase. Muscles in the shoulders and flanks tremble as they fire together for the very first time today, pumping fresh, oxygenated blood through growing tissues. With all four legs finely planted, the infant stretches its spine in a long, curving arch, extending each leg outward one by one to shake off the stiffness of sleep. It stands breathing deeply, taking in the rich, earthy scent of damp loam and wild fennel, fully anchored in the awakening pasture. High above the jagged crests of the Mediterranean hills, the deep indigo of the night begins to thin, yielding slowly to a wash of pearlescent gray. This gradual lightening of the eastern sky marks the end of the quiet pre-dawn hours, dissolving the protective shadows that have sheltered the resting herd through the cool darkness. Across the pasture, dark silhouettes detach themselves from the mist. The matriarch of the family group lifts her head, her broad muzzle testing the air currents for the scent of approaching warmth. Around her, other adults stretch their necks and exhale long plumes of vapor into the crisp spring air. The collective atmosphere shifts from the deep stillness of sleep to a quiet, synchronized readiness for the day. For the young foal, bathed in this first pale illumination, the horizon expands from a shadowy boundary into a vast, inviting landscape. The soft pinks and golds of dawn spill over the dew-drenched grasses, highlighting the delicate contours of the infant's coat and warming the surface of its large, attentive ears. Those remarkable pinnae catch the rising murmur of the awakening countryside, the sudden flurry of a waking sparrow in the scrub oak, the faint rustle of dry leaves driven by a rising thermal, and the deep, reassuring sighs of the mothers nearby. Standing firm and newly awakened beside its dam, the little donkey watches the light creep down the mountain slopes. The herd begins to drift as one cohesive unit toward the lower meadows, their hooves whispering softly over the damp earth. The long night has given way entirely to the promise of spring, and the foal takes its place in the gentle, unhurried flow of the morning. The sun hangs heavy and unyielding above the open flat, casting a pale, blinding glare across the wide, dry riverbed. A shimmering mirage dances along the distant horizon, blurring the boundary between the cracked earth and the pale, cloudless sky. Here, in the heart of summer, the heat is not merely felt. It is a palpable, pressing weight that settles over the landscape. A hot, dry wind sweeps across the basin, whispering through the sparse, dust-coated brush and carrying the faint, dry scent of baked earth. Amidst this vast expanse of stone and sand, a young donkey takes a measured, deliberate step. Gravel shifts quietly beneath small hooves, the sound sharp and solitary in the heavy air. Every movement across the sun-baked floor is calculated, a natural lesson in energy conservation for a juvenile experiencing its very first true summer. The air temperature soars well above comfort, testing the limits of internal thermoregulation. Yet, equids are marvels of desert survival. Specialized blood vessels within the donkey's large ears are already working to dissipate excess internal heat, helping to maintain a stable body core without wasting precious moisture. The juvenile pauses, lifting its head slightly to test the wind with a soft, gentle snort. There is no urgency in its stride, only a profound, instinctive stillness. By slowing its pace and minimizing unnecessary exertion, the young animal reads the ancient rhythms of the arid flat, adjusting its body to match the heavy, sleepy tempo of the afternoon. All around, the landscape rests in breathless anticipation of the cooler hours yet to come. A short distance away, a cluster of umbrella-shaped acacia trees offers a fragile sanctuary from the blazing sky. The young donkey turns its steps toward this sparse refuge, moving with a fluid, unhurried grace. Each hoofprint disturbs the pale dust of the riverbed, settling quietly back into the earth. The journey is short, yet under the relentless glare, every pace is designed to minimize internal heat production. Reaching the edge of the thorny canopy, the juvenile steps out of the direct overhead sunlight and into the dappled shade. The temperature drop, though slight, provides an immediate sense of relief. Acacia shade is notoriously thin, its delicate, feathery leaves offering only partial cover. But the donkey knows instinctively how to position itself. It aligns its body to present the smallest possible surface area to the remaining rays, reducing solar radiation absorption to a bare minimum. Behavioral thermoregulation takes center stage here in the quiet stillness. By anchoring itself beneath the branches, the young equid avoids the costly metabolic toll of panting or excessive sweating. Water retention is sacred in this arid ecosystem, and shade-seeking behavior serves as the animal's primary defense against dehydration. The soft rustling of dry acacia leaves overhead mixes with the distant, steady hum of heat-tolerant insects. The donkey lowers its head, resting its muzzle near the warm ground, and settles into a motionless stance. The large pinnae ears twitch occasionally, swiveling to catch the faintest whisper of a breeze while continuing to radiate warmth away from the body. Time seems to slow to a crawl beneath the branches, mirroring the deep, restorative rest of the surrounding herd, all sheltering in patient harmony with the desert afternoon. Those remarkable ears are far more than tools for listening. They are masterpieces of evolutionary design. Each large, velvety pinna is laced with an intricate network of superficial blood vessels just beneath the thin skin. When the desert heat presses inward, the donkey directs surplus body warmth outward into these expansive sails, turning the ears into natural cooling radiators that release heat directly into the gentler air of the shade. A gentle twitch sends the left ear swiveling forward, while the right turns back toward the rustling acacia canopy. This independent movement allows the juvenile to monitor the landscape with zero physical exertion. It listens to the dry gravel shifting beneath a resting mare's hoof and the low, resonant rumble of a companion's digestion. The world of the arid flat is quiet, yet alive with subtle frequencies, all captured and interpreted by those expressive, tilting panels. As the breeze whispers through the branches, it passes over the heated surface of the pinnae, accelerating the convective cooling process. The donkey rests its weight evenly, blinking heavy eyelids against the persistent glare just beyond the canopy edge. In this sanctuary of stillness, the ears remain eternally vigilant, pivoting through quiet arcs like twin radar dishes tuned to the pulse of the wild. Beyond the cooling currents of the pinnae, the rest of the juvenile's frame enters a state of profound, stoic stillness. In the breathless weight of the midsummer peak, movement is an expensive luxury. The young equid stands motionless beneath the sparse acacia, mimicking the older herd members who anchor themselves against the glare like statues of dust and bone. Every muscle is deliberately unburdened of tension, locked in a low-energy posture that defies the blistering temperature outside the sanctuary of the shade. This conservation strategy is vital for survival. By remaining entirely still, the juvenile prevents its internal metabolic furnace from generating excess heat. There is no restless pacing, no wasted step. Instead, it practices the ancient art of doing nothing, preserving every precious drop of moisture within its tissues. Even its respiration slows, measured and deep, drawing in the dry air without haste. Standing on pillars of solid hoof, the young donkey locks its joints in a passive stay apparatus, a specialized anatomical adaptation shared by its kin. This internal skeletal bracing allows the legs to support body weight with minimal muscular effort, letting the nervous system drift into a meditative lull. The gravel beneath shifts only when a neighboring mare lets out a soft, echoing snort, a reminder of the quiet solidarity shared across the resting band. In this timeless pause, time itself seems to stretch across the riverbed. The hot wind sighs through the canopy overhead, carrying the dry scent of dust and sun-baked earth. But the juvenile remains anchored in place. It absorbs the stillness, letting the heat wash over its resting form without breaking the deep, restorative calm of the afternoon. As the fierce glare softens ever so slightly, the juvenile stirs from its motionless rest, stepping out from the sanctuary of the acacia branches into the sun-bleached expanse of the riverbed. Hunger stirs beneath the ribs, calling for sustenance in a landscape where lush greenery is only a distant memory. Here, in the height of summer, survival belongs to those who can digest the seemingly inedible. Approaching a patch of brittle, silver-gray scrub, the young donkey lowers its velvety muzzle. It selects a coarse, woody stem, testing the tough fibers with sensitive, prehensile lips that can effortlessly distinguish nutritious growth from useless thorn. With a careful crunch, powerful teeth shear through the sun-dried vegetation. Unlike ruminants that rely on multi-chambered stomachs to slowly ferment their meals, the equid employs a hindgut fermentation system. This specialized anatomy acts as an efficient biological mill. Tough, fibrous material passes swiftly through the foregut, allowing the juvenile to process large volumes of low-quality forage quickly. Microscopic flora residing deep within the cecumen colon then go to work, breaking down cellulose walls that would defeat lesser herbivores, unlocking hidden moisture and resilient calories locked inside the dry stalks. The juvenile chews with a slow, rhythmic motion, grinding the abrasive fibers into manageable fragments. Each deliberate bite is an act of quiet resilience, turning parched, unpromising brush into the vital energy needed to sustain life under a blazing desert sun. Surrounded by the quiet expanse of the riverbed, the young donkey continues its unhurried meal, attuned to the steady, enduring rhythm of the herd. A subtle shift sweeps across the sun-scorched flats. The hot, dry wind that baked the riverbed all afternoon finally softens, replaced by a gentle, welcome breeze carrying the faint, sweet scent of distant damp earth. This breath of cooler air whispers through the rustling acacia leaves, offering sweet relief to a landscape exhausted by the glare. With the heavy heat beginning to lift, the entire herd stirs in unison. The giant pin-eye ears of the adults flick forward, catching the refreshing currents of air, signaling that the worst of the summer's furnace has passed. The young juvenile pauses its foraging, lifting its head to let the evening zephyr sweep across its damp forehead. Slowly, deliberately, the animals step out from their dusty resting places. The transition from intense conservation to active exploration is unhurried, matched to the sinking arc of the sun. As the golden hour bathes the dry riverbed in amber light, the herd spreads across the flats, drawn toward the patches of tougher brush that held the day's warmth. The juvenile follows close beside its mother, its steps feeling lighter in the cooling atmosphere. The gravel shifts softly beneath small, sure hooves, accompanied by a few gentle snorts as the youngsters stretch their legs. Far off in the brush, a distant insect hum fades into the quiet hush of dusk. There is no urgency here, only the steady, instinctual rhythm of survival as the desert prepares for the peaceful, cool embrace of twilight. The late summer sun hangs heavy and low over the sprawling, sun-baked basin, radiating an intense, shimmering wave across the arid landscape. The air is thick and still, carrying the faint, dry scent of sun-bleached earth and dormant scrub. Here, in the heart of the desert, the afternoon heat presses down with a relentless weight, challenging every living creature to find a measure of comfort as the long day slowly begins to wane. Amidst this vast expanse of pale dust and scattered stones, A young juvenile donkey picks his way carefully across the warm ground. Growing sturdy and increasingly independent, the young equid moves with a relaxed grace, though his youthful energy is momentarily quieted by the oppressive humidity. His large, expressive ears twitch rhythmically, catching the faint, dry rustle of the wind whispering through the distant brush, while the steady, low hum of cicadas vibrates through the quiet air. Beneath his growing coat, a complex physiological system works tirelessly to manage the heat. The juvenile's integumentary system, his skin and fur, acts as a vital thermal barrier against the harsh solar radiation. Yet the rising temperatures and persistent desert insects demand clever behavioral adaptations. Flies buzz lazily in the warm air, seeking out moisture and shade, becoming a constant annoyance for the young animal. Pausing near the edge of a dry, sandy depression, the juvenile shifts his weight with a soft, shifting sound of sand beneath his small hooves. He lowers his head, his dark eyes half closed against the blinding glare, sensing the approaching transition of the day into something much cooler and kinder. At the center of the depression lies a pristine patch of silty, sun-baked earth, fine as powdered talc and thoroughly warmed by the afternoon rays. The juvenile approaches the basin with slow, deliberate steps, his gentle hoof-fall whispering softly against the crust of the desert floor. He lowers his muzzle close to the ground, drawing in a deep breath to sample the mineral-rich soil with delicate, inquisitive twitches of his soft upper lip. This instinctive inspection is more than mere curiosity. It is an ancient behavioral adaptation deeply etched into his genetic code. Fine-grained dust holds the secret to crucial parasite control and thermoregulation in these arid lands. By working the dry earth deep into his fur, the young equid creates a natural, powdery barrier that shields his sensitive integumentary system from the relentless sun and effectively deters biting insects. The soil absorbs excess moisture and oils, denying pests the environment they crave while offering a soothing mantle against the thermal radiation radiating upward from the desert floor. Satisfied by his olfactory assessment, the young donkey shifts his weight once more. He bends his slender knees, tucks his legs beneath his warm body, and prepares to indulge in the deeply satisfying ritual that awaits him in the heart of the basin. With a soft, contented sigh, the juvenile lets gravity gently take him. He lowers his shoulder into the silty earth and allows his legs to fold, yielding completely to the embrace of the ground. With a slow, luxurious heave, he tips entirely onto his back, his long legs kicking lazily upward into the amber air in a gesture of pure, unadulterated relief. From side to side he rolls, a rhythmic swaying motion that grinds the warm, pulverized earth deep past the guard hairs and down against his skin. Every motion is deliberate, a masterclass in behavioral adaptation honed over millennia. As he rocks, the mineral dust cascades over his flanks, blanketing his growing coat in a pale, protective mantle that will soon reflect the punishing solar radiation and trap a microscopic layer of cooling air against his integumentary system. He shifts his weight again, extending his neck and rubbing his large, velvety pinny directly into the soft sediment. The dust coats the sensitive skin of his ears, sealing out persistent biting insects and soothing the afternoon heat. A faint cloud of golden particles rises to the still air around him, catching the low rays of the setting sun like a shimmering halo. Gravity calls him back downward, and with another slow roll, he regains his feet. He stands for a quiet moment, balanced in the cradle of the basin, before sending a vigorous, rippling shiver from the tip of his nose all the way to his tail. A second cloud of excess soil drifts away on the soft wind whisper, leaving behind a perfectly applied, dust-sealed armor that prepares him for the cooling evening ahead. With a sudden, vibrant burst of energy, the juvenile springs back to his feet with surprising agility, defying the heavy heat of the late afternoon. He stands tall in the center of the shallow basin, instantly setting off a dramatic, full-body shiver that ripples from the tip of his soft nose all the way to the end of his docked tail. A shimmering cloud of fine mineral particles erupts into the quiet air around him, catching the golden slanting light of the low sun like a miniature desert fog. This vigorous shaking response is an essential part of the equine integumentary routine, designed to shed excess weight while leaving behind only the exact amount of earth needed for optimal protection. The microscopic grains settle snugly into the underfur, creating a breathable, mineral-rich barrier that helps regulate his body temperature and thwarts bothersome parasites. As the settling dust slowly drifts away on a soft wind whisper, the young donkey lifts his large, velvety head. His oversized ears, marvels of avian and mammalian thermoregulation packed with a dense network of blood vessels, flick rhythmically back and forth. With each purposeful twitch, any residual sediment is cleared from the sensitive inner pinnae, sharpening his hearing once again to the subtle, ambient sounds of the changing landscape, from the fading hum of distant cicadas to the gentle rustle of dry scrub brushing against the shifting sand. He shakes his head gently from side to side, blinking clear, dark eyes against the lingering golden haze, fully refreshed and ready for the peaceful transition toward twilight. As the sun dips lower toward the western horizon, painting the arid basin in washes of amber and rose, the oppressive glare of midday finally relents. Long, cool shadows stretch across the sun-baked earth, offering a gentle reprieve from the searing heat. Drifting together with quiet, rhythmic steps, the juvenile donkey and his mother move toward the comforting shelter of sparse acacia bushes and weathered rocky outcrops. This daily migration into the shade is a crucial behavioral adaptation for desert survival, allowing the young equid to bypass the most intense thermal radiation without expending precious energy. In the shelter of the canopy, the ambient temperature drops noticeably. The juvenile steps softly, his tiny hooves making a faint scuffing sound against the shifting sand. With the fading hum of distant cicadas, the atmosphere grows still. The large, vascular ears of the young donkey remain relaxed, catching the first refreshing whispers of evening air that begin to weave through the dry scrub. Every muscle in his growing body unwinds, heavy with the comforting exhaustion of a day well spent, sinking slowly into the serene quietude of the desert twilight. The cooling air brings a profound stillness to the desert basin, wrapping the landscape in a velvety cloak of dusk. In this gentle transition between day and night, the juvenile donkey rests comfortably beside his mother, fully surrendering to the quietude. His breathing becomes slow, deep, and steady, mirroring the rhythmic pulse of the wilderness around him. Resting in the gathering shadows is more than just a peaceful interlude. It is a vital physiological state. As core metabolic rates slow down in response to the dropping ambient temperatures, the juvenile's body conserves precious water and energy reserves after a long day of navigating the heat. His dusty coat, now settled and undisturbed by the evening breeze, continues to act as a subtle insulator, radiating away the day's lingering warmth while he drifts toward sleep. A soft wind whisper brushes through the dry scrub, carrying the crisp, clean scent of cooling sand and distant creosote bushes. The faint, final bird call echoes across the basin before dissolving entirely into the expanding quiet. Every tension drains from the young equid's legs, leaving him heavy, safe, and deeply relaxed. Standing close enough to feel the reassuring warmth of his mother's flank, the juvenile closes his heavy eyelids. The vast desert sky deepens from violet to indigo, spattered with the first gentle points of starlight, watching over a night of undisturbed peace. The heavy, shimmering blanket of summer heat finally lifts from the arid plain. As the last amber traces of the sun fade below the distant horizon, the desert exhales, releasing the trapped warmth of the day into the widening expanse of the evening sky. A gentle, cooling breeze sweeps across the dusty earth, rustling the brittle tips of the dry grasses and carrying with it the faint, steady chirping of distant crickets. Deep within the resting herd, a small, playful juvenile donkey stirs. Lying comfortably against the cooling soil, the young equid stretches its long legs outward and gives a gentle, contented yawn. With a soft shake, a cloud of fine afternoon dust lifts from its coat, catching the first silvery rays of the rising moon. The transition from the exhausting dormancy of the midday heat to the refreshing clarity of night is complete. Guided by instinct and the quiet rustle of the herd coming to life, the juvenile scrambles to its feet. It nudges close to its mother, whose familiar silhouette anchors the group in the gathering shadows. Across the landscape, large, expressive ears swivel effortlessly in the deepening quiet, catching the soft sounds of nocturnal life awakening. The blistering summer day is gone, leaving behind a tranquil sanctuary of silver light and cool air. Together, the family group begins to move, taking their first slow, deliberate steps toward the fibrous forage waiting beneath the starlight. Bathed in the pale, ethereal glow of the high desert moon, the arid landscape transforms into a quiet realm of contrasting silver light and deep indigo shadows. The juvenile donkey pauses for a moment, taking in the vast, luminous expanse. In this nocturnal world, vision is supplemented by an extraordinary sensory array. The young equid's large, highly sensitive pin-eye ears, spacious radars framed by fine hair, pivot independently, swiveling back and forth to capture the subtle, hidden sounds of the grassland. One ear rotates outward to catch the faint, ghostly hoot of an owl drifting across the flats, while the other tilts forward to tune in to the rhythmic, comforting footfalls of the adult herd. This constant acoustic scanning is a vital adaptation for desert survival, allowing the young animal to map its surroundings entirely by sound in the dim light. The moonlight casts long, shifting silhouettes of dry scrub and bunchgrass across the dusty soil, yet the juvenile navigates the uneven terrain with calm, unhurried grace. Every twitch of those remarkable ears processes the acoustic landscape, translating the rustle of a passing beetle or the whisper of the night breeze into a reassuring map of safety. Surrounded by the family group, the young donkey feels a deep, instinctive sense of security beneath the expansive starry sky, perfectly attuned to the peaceful rhythms of the summer night. A gentle, cooling breeze sweeps across the moonlit flats, carrying the scent of parched earth and dormant vegetation. Guided by the soft rustling of dry grass ahead, the young donkey approaches a cluster of coarse, sun-baked bunchgrass that most herbivores would bypass. While delicate grazers seek out tender shoots, the equid thrives on structural resilience. This tough, fibrous scrub is rich in cellulose and lignin, tough plant walls that require exceptional biological machinery to break down. The juvenile watches an experienced adult carefully select a stalk of gray-green saltbush, then mimics the precise movement. With velvety, prehensile lips, the young donkey gathers the prickly forage, testing its texture before drawing it firmly into the mouth. The flat, broad molars begin a slow, rhythmic grinding motion, sliding side to side with remarkable persistence. This continuous mastication is the crucial first step in a specialized digestive strategy. Unlike ruminants that ferment food in a multi-chambered stomach up front, the donkey is a hindgut fermenter. The fibrous stems pass relatively quickly through the simple stomach and small intestine, arriving largely intact at the enlarged cecum and colon. Here, a specialized microbial population goes to work in the quiet hours of the night, slowly breaking down the complex, woody carbohydrates that provide sustained energy throughout the dry season. Nothing is wasted in this arid realm. Even the driest, most unpromising stems yield precious hydration and calories, fueling the growing body as the gentle cadence of chewing blends seamlessly with the distant chirping of crickets. Within this expansive fermentation chamber, a delicate and symbiotic ecosystem thrives away from the sun's harsh glare. Billions of specialized microorganisms gently ferment the cellulose, releasing essential volatile fatty acids that the young donkey's body absorbs over hours of steady digestion. This biological adaptation turns seemingly barren landscapes into a dependable pantry, ensuring that every mouthful of desert scrub contributes directly to the growing animal's vitality. As the cool night air deepens, the rhythmic sound of steady chewing continues across the moonlit plain, a testament to an anatomy finely tuned for resilience. The juvenile pauses for a brief moment, letting large, velvety ears swivel back to catch the faint, soothing hoot of a distant owl before returning to the task at hand. The slow, methodical processing of tough forage requires patience, mirroring the tranquil pace of the desert night itself. By extracting both vital nutrients and precious moisture from seemingly lifeless plant material, the young equid masters the ancient rhythm of survival. Resting securely within the gentle, cooling embrace of the midnight hours, beneath the sprawling canopy of stars, the herd shifts together as a single, cohesive unit. Hooves on dry soil create a muffled, rhythmic percussion, blending softly with the gentle sigh of a night breeze sweeping across the open grassland. The slow, deliberate movement is born of necessity and heritage, tracing ancient pathways etched deep into the memory of the mature adults. Every step is measured, designed to conserve precious energy while navigating the familiar contours of the arid home range. Matching its stride to the steady cadence of the matriarch, the young juvenile falls neatly into line. The long legs of the growing equid move with an easy grace, testing the ground and absorbing the subtle shifts in terrain under the silver moonlight. Traveling by night allows the herd to bypass the scorching thermal stress of the summer sun, turning what could be a grueling trek into a cool, restorative migration. With every purposeful stride forward, the group drifts gradually across the landscape, pausing occasionally when a particularly resilient patch of desert scrub catches their attention. The juvenile observes the elders closely, noting how they effortlessly read the nocturnal landscape. Large, expressive ears remain in constant, quiet motion, tuning in to the faint, distant chirps of crickets and the rustling dry grass that whispers around their ankles. In this tranquil darkness, free from the blazing daytime heat, the young donkey learns the timeless geography of survival. Each slow, unhurried pace weaves the youngster deeper into the collective rhythm of the family, forging a quiet bond that anchors them securely within the peaceful expanse of the desert night. As the pre-dawn hours draw near, the long nocturnal feeding cycle gradually comes to a peaceful close. The immediate nutritional needs of the herd have been fully met, their specialized hindgut systems quietly humming with the slow breakdown of fibrous grasses extracted from the moonlit plain. The steady rhythm of rhythmic chewing slows, giving way to a profound, restorative quiet across the arid grassland. Sensing the impending shift in the sky, the mature adults alter their course, guiding the family toward a shallow, sheltered basin. Surrounded by low earthen banks that block the faint night breeze, the group drifts together into a tight, harmonious cluster. Hooves on dry soil grow still, replaced by the soft, steady sounds of deep, relaxed breathing. The young juvenile settles gracefully into the center of the herd, finding comforting warmth and security among the slumbering flanks of the adults. Large, expressive ears, which had scanned the darkness all night for distant sounds and faint owl hoots, finally droop in comfortable repose. As the first pale hints of silver and rose begin to touch the eastern horizon, tinting the desert sky with the promise of a new day, the young donkey surrenders completely to sleep. Protected by the quiet vigilance of the family and cradled by the cooling earth, the youngster rests deeply, its growing body recovering strength in the tranquil embrace of the fading night. The first breath of summer dawn rises silently over the high, rocky plateau, painting the endless stone in shades of amber and pale copper. There is no green horizon here, nor the glimmer of morning moisture on the sparse, sun-bleached bunchgrass. Instead, the air arrives dry and already holding the memory of yesterday's warmth, sweeping softly across the ancient, weathered earth. A faint insect hum stirs in the stillness, joined by the distant, echoing call of a raptor drifting high above the ridgeline. In this arid expanse, the summer season brings no heavy dew to cool the dawn. The ground remains entirely parched, a mosaic of basalt gravel and fractured slate that cools very little through the short night. As the sun edges slowly above the eastern crest, casting long, sharp shadows across the dusty earth, the landscape holds a profound, expectant quiet. This absence of moisture is a defining feature of the biome, shaping every aspect of survival for the creatures that call it home. Without the benefit of morning condensation for hydration, life must rely on physiological mastery over the environment. Far beneath the surface, ancient capillary networks in the soil are completely dry, yet the ecosystem endures through quiet resilience. The gentle dry wind carries only the scent of sun-warmed dust and crushed sage, whispering across the stones as the ambient temperature begins its inevitable, steady climb toward the heat of the day. From the shadowed curve of a sheltering outcrop, movement breaks the stillness. The young donkey rises from the dry earth with a fluid, unhurried grace, transitioning seamlessly from nocturnal rest to the first waking mobility of the morning. Standing tall against the pale copper light, the juvenile begins its physiological awakening, a quiet demonstration of natural skeletal development designed for this demanding terrain. With a soft, contented snort that drifts away on the gentle dry wind, the young equid extends its neck forward and downward. It reaches out, lengthening the spine to relieve the tension of overnight slumber. One slender foreleg stretches far ahead, testing the firm, rocky earth with a hoof that rotates gently at the fetlock. This deliberate flexing lubricates the joints, sending warmth through developing cartilage and synovial capsules. Every movement highlights the remarkable efficiency of equine biomechanics, where delicate-looking bones house dense structural integrity capable of absorbing repeated impacts without fatigue. Muscles ripple smoothly beneath the dusty coat as the hindquarters stretch backward in a slow, sweeping arc. The growing frame responds to the demands of its harsh habitat, stimulating blood flow to growing tendon fibers and preparing the neuromuscular system for the challenges ahead. These early morning stretches are not merely instinctive, they are essential neurological calibrations. They fine-tune proprioception, the body's internal awareness of limb position, ensuring absolute precision for every future step across the unpredictable, broken ground of the plateau. As the sun climbs higher, casting sharper shadows against the gray stone, the juvenile shakes its head, ears swiveling to catch the faint insect hum and the light, clicking sound of gravel shifting beneath a readjusting hoof. The limbs feel supple now, thoroughly awakened and primed for the day. Transitioning from quiet stretches to active motion, the young donkey initiates a gentle trot across the sunbaked expanse. This is not the frantic flight of a plains-dwelling prey animal, but a measured, deliberate display of metabolic efficiency. Each hooffall against the dry, gravelly substrate is remarkably quiet, a soft, muffled rhythm of single-hoofed digits finding purchase on shifting stone. The biomechanics here are masterclasses in economy. Unlike the bouncing gait of larger equids, the donkey's trot maintains a low, energy-conserving center of gravity. The slender legs move in diagonal pairs, lifting just high enough to clear protruding limestone fragments. There is no wasted vertical displacement. Every ounce of muscular effort is funneled directly into forward propulsion. As the narrow, hard-walled hooves strike the ground, the internal frog of the foot expands to absorb the shock, dampening the concussive force before it reaches the delicate bones of the lower limb. This specialized skeletal architecture protects developing joints from the chronic wear typical of hard, uneven terrain. Tendons in the lower legs act like biological springs, storing and releasing elastic energy with every stride, reducing the active metabolic cost required to move across the rugged landscape. The juvenile navigates a gentle slope, demonstrating an instinctive grasp of lateral stability. The body remains level, torso swaying minimally as the musculature of the shoulder and hip coordinates the placement of each foot with pinpoint accuracy. Proprioceptive feedback ensures that if a loose pebble rolls beneath a toe, corrective adjustments happen in milliseconds, preserving momentum without squandering precious physiological reserves as the ambient heat slowly begins to build. Seizing the cool margin of the early hour, the young equid transitions from a steady trot into a sequence of brief, controlled bursts of activity. These playful dashes across the sun-baked earth are far more than mere youthful exuberance. They are the architectural blueprint for survival. With a sudden tuck of the haunches and a spirited toss of the head, the juvenile practices sharp, pivoting turns and rapid shifts in pacing, challenging its developing cardiovascular system in measured doses before the heavy heat arrives. During these dynamic movements, fast twitch muscle fibers contract in synchronized harmony, stimulating the synthesis of dense proteins that reinforce the growing skeletal frame. The heart, responding to the sudden demand for oxygenated blood, pumps with increasing stroke volume, conditioning the circulatory pathways without exceeding the animal's conservative metabolic limits. This careful balancing act prevents overheating, a vital physiological adaptation in environments where every calorie and drop of moisture must be fiercely guarded. By engaging in these short intervals of accelerated locomotion, the youngster conditions its tendons and ligaments to withstand the unpredictable torsion of rocky ground. The repetitive loading and unloading of the lower limbs prompt the connective tissues to deposit collagen in alignment with habitual stress vectors, forging resilient joints capable of lifelong endurance. As the energetic interlude draws to a natural close, the breathing slows effortlessly back to a deep, even cadence. The juvenile comes to a gentle halt, lowering its muzzle to the warm dust as the first shimmering waves of midday heat begin to ripple across the silent plateau. The ambient temperature shifts almost imperceptibly, yet the juvenile's internal sensors register the invisible boundary long before the air feels heavy. Thermoreceptors embedded within the skin detect the rising thermal gradient, signaling the hypothalamus to initiate immediate behavioral adjustments. The playful restlessness evaporates, replaced by an ancient, quiet wisdom etched into the species' DNA. A soft snorting sound ripples through the still air as the young equid tests the breeze, noting the scent signatures carried upon the gentle, dry wind. Rather than expending precious metabolic energy in further play, the animal curtails its activity entirely. Every movement becomes deliberate, measured, and exceedingly slow. Turning away from the sun-exposed slopes, the juvenile begins a steady, unhurried walk toward the rest of the herd. The faint insect hum grows louder in the warming stillness, yet the young donkey remains focused on its objective, guided by the instinct for thermal conservation. By clustering close to older, more experienced herd members, the youngster reduces its effective surface area exposed to direct solar radiation, while benefiting from the microclimate of the group's shared shade. Reaching the protective huddle, the juvenile lowers its slender frame to the dust with a fluid, seamless motion. The limbs fold inward beneath the torso, and the head rests calmly upon the earth. Metabolic rate downshifts into a baseline idling state, minimizing internal heat production just as the external environment reaches its upward climb. Surrounded by the quiet breathing of its kin, The young animal rests in perfect equilibrium with the demanding summer plateau. In the embrace of the afternoon stillness, the plateau settles beneath a heavy canopy of shimmering heat. Distant bird calls fade entirely into the quiet air, replaced only by the faint, rhythmic hum of insects vibrating against the sun-baked earth. Within the shaded sanctuary of the resting herd, time seems to stretch and slow. The young donkey lies completely still, its long ears tilting independently to catch the faintest breath of dry wind without requiring any wasted motion. Every physiological system now operates at a profound baseline of rest. Respiration deepens and decelerates, allowing the animal's internal core temperature to stabilize naturally through passive cooling and specialized vascular routing. There is no unnecessary movement, no restless twitch of a tail, only total, restorative repose. As the older herd members doze beside it, their steady, synchronized breathing creates a soothing cadence that echoes across the dust. Resting in perfect harmony with the arid rhythms of summer, the young equid yields completely to the profound, sleepy quiet of the midday hours. The desert night surrenders grudgingly to the bruised purple tones of a summer pre-dawn. Within the deepest curve of the canyon alcove, high walls of ancient, sun-bleached sandstone cradle a pocket of still, cool air. Here, shielded from the relentless baking of the upcoming afternoon, the young donkey moves with quiet, deliberate footsteps over the soft, sandy floor. As the first faint brushstrokes of gray light trace the rim of the gorge, the juvenile seeks out this natural thermal refuge. Desert equids have long understood the profound wisdom of these geological shadows. The stone overhead, warmed by yesterday's sun, radiates a gentle, diminishing heat, while the canyon's floor retains the lingering chill of the night. This microclimate offers a vital sanctuary as the arid ecosystem braces itself for another day of intense summer temperatures. Surrounding the young explorer, the herd settles into a seamless, synchronized stillness. Shadows stretch long and indigo across the canyon floor, blurring the boundaries between rock and resting animal. A distant, weary owl calls out a final note to the retreating dark, replaced by the soft, rhythmic breathing of mature herd members maintaining their silent, unwavering vigilance. In this hushed sanctuary, the atmosphere thickens with a heavy, peaceful stillness, broken only by the faint, dry rustle of saltbush in a very gentle breeze and the low-frequency hum of insects beginning their diurnal shifts. The young donkey lowers its long, velvety ears, sensing the profound safety of the alcove, and prepares to greet the climbing sun in absolute, restorative peace. Within the cool sanctuary of the alcove, the young donkey prepares for a remarkable act of physiological conservation. Instead of lying down upon the warm sand, a posture that would leave a desert equid vulnerable to sudden threats, the juvenile engages an ancient architectural marvel, the equine stay apparatus. This intricate network of specialized tendons, ligaments, and stabilizing muscles allows the limbs to lock securely into place with astonishingly little muscular effort. As the young equid shifts its weight, a delicate alignment takes place within the joints. The patella hooks over the end of the femur, locking the stifle joint in place, while corresponding tendons in the lower leg snap taut like suspension bridges. Gravity no longer demands constant muscular contraction to hold the heavy frame upright. The legs become living pillars of bone and sinew, perfectly balanced and effortlessly braced against the earth. This anatomical masterpiece is a gift of deep evolutionary wisdom. By neutralizing the physical burden of supporting body weight, the young donkey can drift into profound restorative sleep while remaining poised for instant flight. Energy is carefully hoarded, and precious moisture is conserved within tissues that would otherwise labor against the heat. The nervous system unwinds, sensing the absolute security of the locked joints. Breathing slows to a gentle, rhythmic cadence that harmonizes with the quiet desert surroundings. Safe within this biomechanical embrace, the juvenile rests completely, suspended in a state of effortless, watchful tranquility. Yet, this profound slumber is never a solitary endeavor. It is part of a delicate choreography shared across the entire herd. While the young donkey surrenders to the restorative stillness of its locked limbs, older, more experienced herd members remain standing nearby, forming a living perimeter of quiet vigilance. Their ears swivel independently, catching the faintest whispers of the canyon winds or the dry scrape of a distant lizard against the rocks. In the complex social hierarchy of desert equids, vulnerability is shared and mitigated by community. The matriarch stands sentinel at the mouth of the alcove, her head held high, eyes heavy-lidded against the rising pre-dawn light but entirely alert. This communal safety net allows the juvenile to experience the deep, restorative sleep cycles, so vital for its growing body without the burden of constant scanning. The nervous system of the resting youngster recognizes this shared watchfulness, permitting the brain to drift into brief, restorative phases of slow-wave sleep and even fleeting moments of rapid eye movement, all while upright. Predators, ever watchful for a moment of weakness in the arid ecosystem, find little opportunity here. The herd's collective awareness creates an invisible shield of protection, a synchronized ecosystem of trust where every individual contributes to the whole. The breathing of the resting juvenile blends softly with the steady, reassuring respiration of its companions, creating an ambient rhythm of safety. In this quiet sanctuary, sleep is not merely an absence of activity, but an active, shared state of survival, nurtured by the silent bonds that tie the family together against the vast, unforgiving landscape. The heat of the day presses down in heavy, shimmering waves, wrapping the canyon alcove in a blanket of absolute stillness. Outside this cool sanctuary, the desert floor bakes under the relentless climb of the summer sun. But within the amber shadows, time itself seems to pause. The landscape falls profoundly quiet, hushed by the sheer intensity of the afternoon warmth. Enveloped in this sanctuary of stone and shade, the young donkey drifts deeper into motionless peace. Its breathing slows to a gentle, rhythmic cadence, rising and falling in harmony with the soft exhales of the resting herd. In this state of profound slumber, the energy-conserving brilliance of avian and mammalian biology is surpassed only by the specialized adaptations of the equid. The young animal's muscles relax completely, unburdened by the need for active support, while the stay apparatus of its joints maintains a secure, effortless posture. Every sense softens. The dazzling glare of the desert is blocked by the protective overhang, leaving only a soothing, filtered twilight across the dusty ground. Faint whispers of wind occasionally brush against the canyon walls, stirring the dry brush with a sound like falling sand. But otherwise, the air is completely still. High above, even the summer insects have retreated from the thermal peaks, pausing their drone in the stifling zenith. Resting here in motionless tranquility, the juvenile's body restores its vital moisture and replenishes its reserves, weathering the day's severest trial through sheer stillness. It is a peaceful, suspended moment where the wild pulse of the ecosystem slows to a calm, restorative heartbeat, cradling the young equid in deep and quiet safety. In the breathless furnace of the desert afternoon, survival is measured in drops of water and calories saved. For the young donkey, the quiet stillness of the alcove is far more than mere sleep. It is a vital physiological strategy for desert endurance. When the ambient temperature climbs far above the animal's own body heat, every unnecessary movement carries a heavy metabolic cost. By remaining completely motionless, the juvenile avoids the internal heat production that comes with physical exertion, preventing the body from having to sweat away precious moisture to cool itself down. Inside the resting frame, sophisticated adaptations work silently to manage limited resources. The kidneys and digestive tract operate at a reduced, highly efficient pace, extracting maximum hydration from the fibrous desert forage consumed earlier in the dawn hours. This remarkable conservation allows the equid to maintain its internal core temperature within a safe, stable range, weathering the thermal apex of the day without depleting its vital reserves. Rest becomes a living shield against the harsh climate. Every quiet breath and relaxed muscle fiber contributes to a delicate internal balance, securing the young animal's vitality until the sun finally surrenders its grip on the canyon, cradled by the ancient stone and the protective presence of the silent herd. The juvenile drifts on in profound, restorative peace, sustained by the timeless wisdom encoded in its biology. Slowly, the fierce white glare upon the canyon walls softens into a gentle, honeyed gold. The heavy, baking weight of the midday heat begins to lift as the sun drifts lower down the western sky, casting long, cool shadows across the dusty floor of the alcove. With a soft, contented exhale, the young donkey stirs from its standing slumber. Muscles gently uncoil, and the specialized stay apparatus of its limbs releases its mechanical lock, allowing the juvenile to shift its weight and stretch each leg with slow, deliberate grace. A low, sleepy sigh ripples through the nearby herd as the older members also begin to rouse, shaking the dry dust from their coats. The air itself carries a subtle, unmistakable promise. A faint, refreshing breeze whispers down from the high plateaus, hinting at the crisp, amber tides of autumn just beginning to wait in the wings. The scorching fury of summer is slowly yielding, its grip loosening as the landscape cools into the quiet sanctuary of evening. Fully alert now, yet entirely calm, the young equid takes a deep, grounding breath of the transitioning air. It feels the renewed strength humming quietly within its muscles, the vital energy carefully conserved through the long, hot hours of the day. Side by side with its kin, the juvenile takes its first gentle steps forward into the deepening twilight, ready to embrace the changing world. The rolling hills, once blanketed in the dusty green haze of high summer, undergo a quiet, profound alchemy. As the sun arcs lower in the autumn sky, its amber rays cast long, liquid shadows across the undulating topography. A crisp autumn wind sweeps over the crests, carrying the scent of wood smoke, damp earth, and the unmistakable chill of the changing season. This drop in temperature triggers a vital physiological cue in the landscape and its inhabitants. The chlorophyll withdraws from the blades of fescue and wild rye, curing the foliage into undulating waves of gold, bronze, and copper that rustle softly in the breeze. For the independent yearling standing upon the ridge, this visual and thermal shift marks the beginning of a new chapter of maturity. Beneath the cooling air, the young equid's body is already responding to the seasonal rhythm. The patchy, bleached remnants of the lightweight juvenile coat are slowly shedding, making way for a denser, plush underlayer designed to trap warmth against the skin as the months grow colder. Every soft hoof step on the brittle turf resonates with a quiet certainty. No longer tethered to the constant demand for maternal milk, the yearling breathes in the bracing air, feeling the distinct invigoration of the autumn transition. Distant bird calls drift across the valley, a flock of migrating geese tracing a faint V against the pale turquoise sky. The world slows down, settling into a tranquil golden hush as the day gracefully yields to the approaching evening. Nutritional independence arrives quietly, unannounced by fanfare, yet it represents one of the most demanding physiological milestones in the young equid's life. The maternal bond remains intact, expressed now through companionable proximity rather than nursing. The heavy, sweet nourishment of milk is a memory, replaced entirely by the demanding chemistry of a strictly herbivorous diet. The yearling steps carefully through the amber swaths, pausing to lower its muzzle to the cured stems of wild switchgrass and tough, seed-heavy oatgrass. Unlike the tender shoots of spring, autumn vegetation is richly laced with structural fibers like cellulose and lignin, Processing this coarse roughage requires an ingenious biological toolkit. Inside the yearling's widening jaw, specialized flat-surfaced molars slide past one another in a rhythmic, lateral grinding motion. Hour after hour, these powerful teeth pulverize the abrasive plant cell walls, unlocking the vital nutrients sequestered within. Once swallowed, the fibrous mass enters the hindgut, where a specialized microbial fermentation chamber takes over. Microscopic organisms gently break down the complex plant material, extracting slow-burning energy that warms the yearling from the inside out. A soft, contented snort escapes the young donkey's nostrils, stirring the dry blades below. With each deliberate mouthful, the yearling masters the ancient art of foraging, turning the stubborn, dry bounty of the autumn hills into the fuel needed for the cold nights ahead. Beyond the immediate comfort of the maternal bond, a wider social world gently takes shape across the rolling hills. The yearling raises its head from the golden grasses, turning its attention toward the greater herd. Within this quiet society, survival depends upon an unspoken language of subtlety and grace. Every tilt of an ear, every shift of weight, and every subtle change in posture carries profound meaning. An older mare grazes nearby, her coat catching the amber light of the low sun. As the young equid approaches, it does not rush. Instead, it observes the strict spatial rules that govern peaceful coexistence. It halts a respectful distance away, lowering its head in a universal sign of deference. The mare's ears flick backward momentarily, a soft caution, before softening into a neutral, relaxed position. This delicate exchange of equine body language prevents conflict and maintains the tranquil harmony of the group. Gradually, the yearling steps closer, finding reassurance simply in the steady rhythm of another heartbeat. Social integration happens not through loud displays, but through quiet proximity and the patient navigation of herd dynamics. Soon, the yearling drifts toward a trusted companion to begin the soothing ritual of mutual grooming. They stand head to tail, gently nibbling along each other's withers and backs. This rhythmic, reciprocal touch releases calming endorphins, cementing lifelong social bonds that will anchor the young donkey securely within the community as the autumn shadows lengthen. This reciprocal practice, known scientifically as allo grooming, serves a far greater purpose than simple comfort. By using their incisors in a delicate nibbling motion along the sensitive skin of the top line, especially around the shoulders and spine where teeth cannot reach alone, the donkeys actively reduce each other's heart rates. This gentle tactile stimulation releases soothing endorphins throughout the nervous system, dissolving any lingering tension within the herd. As their teeth rhythmically part the coarse fur, the movement also aids the seasonal transition of their coats. Loose juvenile hairs, no longer needed as the crisp autumn wind sweeps over the rolling hills, easily lift away in the breeze. The physical contact reinforces vital social alliances, helping the independent yearling secure its place within the hierarchy without a single sound of conflict. Standing head to tail in the fading amber light, the two equids breathe in synchrony. The steady warmth of their bodies provides a deep sense of security against the approaching chill of dusk. In this quiet stillness, the bonds of community are quietly knitted together, strand by strand, beneath the low golden sun. Beneath the low golden sun. Another profound transformation quietly unfolds across the yearling's skin. The crisp autumn breeze carries a distinct chill, signaling a physiological shift that has been underway for weeks. Across the rolling hills, the young equid's coat begins to change, answering the ancient biological call of seasonal adaptation. The lighter, sun-bleached juvenile hairs slowly yield to a much denser, coarser winter pelage. Specialized hair follicles beneath the skin increase their production of thicker guard hairs, creating a robust outer barrier against the elements. Interspersed among these coarser strands, a fine, tightly crimped undercoat develops. This hidden layer traps microscopic pockets of air warmed by the body, providing exceptional natural insulation. As the afternoon light softens into amber hues, the yearling pauses from foraging to gently scratch its flank against the rough bark of a fallen branch. With each movement, loose wisps of the old summer coat release into the wind, carrying away the remnants of youth. The new fur lies thicker and plush, designed to shed moisture and break the biting force of the coming frost. This gradual thickening of the dermis and epidermis represents a masterclass in mammalian thermoregulation. Without a single shiver, the young donkey's physiology expertly adjusts to the dropping ambient temperatures. Every square inch of the growing hide prepares for the long, quiet nights ahead, wrapping the independent yearling in a quiet, natural armor of warmth and resilience. As the late afternoon light deepens into a rich, honeyed glow, long, soft shadows stretch gracefully across the rolling hills. The crisp autumn wind softens to a gentle hush, carrying the faint, earthy scent of sunbaked earth and cured grasses. The yearling grazes contentedly alongside the wider herd, its movements unhurried and fluid. Having completed the physiological transition from milk to a diet rich in fibrous vegetation, the young equid moves with quiet confidence. Specialized equine grinders, the robust molars and premolars, work in a slow, rhythmic lateral motion, efficiently reducing the tough autumnal stalks to digestible nutrients. Every bite contributes to the slow-burning internal heat required as the temperature begins to dip. Around the yearling, the other herd members settle into a calm, synchronized rhythm. Heads lower together in the amber illumination, brushing against rustling dry grasses that whisper softly in the cooling air. A distant bird call echoes across the valley, signaling the approach of evening. There is no urgency here, only the steady, grounding presence of the social group. Standing shoulder to shoulder with non-maternal companions, the yearling feels the reassuring warmth of proximity. Soft hoof steps shift the earth slightly as the animals gently reorganize themselves, noses touching in brief, quiet greetings before they rest. The day's active foraging gives way to stillness. As the sun dips lower toward the horizon, painting the sky in washes of mauve and gold, the young donkey lets out a long, relaxed sigh. Its newly thickened coat traps the lingering warmth of the day, offering a cocoon of comfort against the impending twilight. Surrounded by the gentle, heavy-lidded herd, the yearling lowers its head toward the golden slopes, drifting peacefully toward sleep as the first quiet stars blink into the darkening sky. The high-altitude plateau stretches endlessly beneath a vast, pale sky, where the sun begins its slow, amber descent toward the jagged western horizon. As the solar disk dips lower, it casts long, indigo shadows across the cured, silvery grasses and the scattered, hardy shrubs that cling to the stony earth. The intense warmth of the afternoon dissolves quickly into the crisp, clean air of an approaching autumn evening, painting the clouds in bruised shades of violet and deep rose. A gentle, sighing breeze sweeps across the open expanse, carrying the dry, earthy scent of dormant vegetation and the unmistakable chill of the changing season. Standing near a low cluster of sagebrush, an independent yearling equid pauses its steady foraging rhythm. Through its rapidly thickening autumn coat, a dense, insulating underlayer designed for the coming winter, the young animal feels the sudden drop in ambient temperature. Its sensitive skin registers the cooling air, triggering an innate physiological adjustment as blood vessels near the surface gently constrict to conserve core body heat. With ears swiveling forward to catch the ambient sounds of the fading day, the yearling lifts its head from the forage. Its dark, expressive eyes scan the vast horizon as distant bird calls fade into the quiet expanse. The rustling of dry shrubs beneath shifting hooves provides a steady, grounding rhythm to the stillness. Alone yet entirely attuned to the rhythms of the land, the yearling stands quietly in the deepening twilight, watching the magnificent colors shift above, quietly sensing the profound, unhurried transition from day to night on the high plateau. Beneath the darkening sky, subtle biological transformations unfold across the yearling's frame. Beneath the outer layer of long guard hairs, a secondary undercoat is actively thickening, each individual hair follicle stimulated by the shortening hours of daylight to produce a dense, trapped layer of warm air against the skin. This physiological insulation mechanism is nature's most efficient shield against the impending freeze of high-altitude winter. Equid physiology is finely tuned to the subtle language of the atmosphere. The yearling's sensitive inner ears and specialized nasal passages monitor barometric pressure drops with remarkable precision, registering the invisible weight of the approaching cold front long before the stars fully pierce the violet vault above. This internal barometer triggers an instinctual behavioral shift, steering the young animal away from the solitary, wide-ranging roaming habits of the warmer months toward a more protective, energy-conserving consolidation. Metabolic pathways adjust in response to the cooling air. Instead of expending precious calories on vigorous movement across the vast plateau, the yearling system begins to favor fat retention and slow burn digestion of the remaining dry forage. Every breath draws in the crisp evening air, yet internal core temperatures remain carefully guarded through these silent, cellular adaptations. The body prepares itself, resting in a state of quiet readiness, perfectly synchronized with the patient, unyielding cadence of the changing seasons on the wild earth. Out on the open plateau, a sudden gust of crisp autumn wind rustles through the dry shrubs, carrying the scent of pine and cooling earth. The lead mare lifts her head, her long ears swiveling to catch the low-frequency vibrations of the shifting weather. Without a sound, she executes a subtle postural shift, transferring her weight forward and setting off with a purposeful, unhurried stride. This single movement acts as a silent wave of communication across the scattered family group. Mature mares and experienced adults immediately adjust their orientation, falling into an orderly, single-file procession that honors ancient migration pathways. Recognizing the familiar social cues, the independent yearling breaks away from the grazing patch. Its hooves click softly against the gravel as it trots to catch up, sliding neatly into the slipstream of the moving herd. The collective journey is guided by the matriarch's encyclopedic memory of the terrain, forged over years of surviving these harsh seasonal transitions. As the equids navigate the uneven topography, the landscape itself begins to offer relief. The biting draft of the open plain slowly softens as the group migrates toward a crescent-shaped outcropping of sedimentary rock. This natural geological windbreak stands as a reliable sanctuary, sculpted by millennia of wind and weather. The shifting hooves grow quieter as the ground transitions from loose stone to sheltered, sandy soil beneath the protective shadow of the stone walls, bringing the weary travelers gently into the embrace of the evening's safety. Beneath the amber shadow of the crescent rock, the procession slows to a gentle halt. The open expanse of the plateau recedes, replaced by the intimate shelter of the stone crescent. Here, sheltered from the relentless draft, the herd begins to compact into a tight, harmonious formation. The independent yearling finds its place naturally amidst familiar companions, tucking its frame securely between a protective older mare and a steady-paced aunt. In this close-quarter social alignment, an ancient evolutionary strategy for survival takes effect. Standing shoulder to shoulder, the equids drastically reduce the surface area exposed to the chill, forming a unified barrier against the dropping temperature. This collective thermoregulation is a masterpiece of energy conservation. By pressing close, each animal shares ambient body heat, lowering individual metabolic costs during the long, frigid night ahead. The yearling leans softly against the warm flank of its neighbor, feeling the steady, rhythmic rise and fall of a trusted chest. This physical contact does more than preserve warmth. It releases a cascade of calming neurochemicals, easing the residual vigilance of the day. The rustling dry shrubs fade into a distant hum as the restless energy of the open plain dissolves into quiet stillness. Safe within the living architecture of the herd, the yearling rests its heavy eyelids, anchored by the silent, steady pulse of shared life. As darkness fully envelops the windswept plateau, the expansive acoustic landscape narrows to the gentle whisper of the autumn breeze and the quiet, rhythmic shifting of hooves upon gravel. In this obsidian stillness, the sensory world shifts from the visual to the auditory and tactile. Soft, low-frequency grunts, vocalizations pitched below the threshold of distant danger, pass effortlessly between herd members, maintaining an invisible web of social contact. These quiet sounds, paired with subtle flicks of mobile pinnae, allow the equids to converse across the shadowed ranks without alerting potential predators lurking in the surrounding scrubland. The yearling's ears swivel independently, catching the low murmur of an aunt to the left and the deep, measured respiration of the mare beside it. This acoustic communion reinforces familial ties, each low-frequency snort vibrating gently through the cool night air as a reassurance of presence and safety. Interspersed with these gentle communications is the soothing cadence of rhythmic chewing, as a few lingering adults continue to grind fibrous forage at a slow, meditative pace. Digestion itself generates internal warmth, an essential metabolic process that helps sustain core temperatures through the midnight hours. Yet, as the minutes drift by, even the chewing subsides. The collective breathing of the herd aligns into a slow, synchronized swell, matching the steady pulse of the sleeping earth. Under the vast, starlit canopy, the yearling closes its eyes entirely, cradled by the quiet hum of community and the profound, restorative peace of the autumn night. Above the high-altitude plateau, the autumn sky deepens into a velvet abyss, framing a constellation-rich canopy that sheds a pale, silvery luminescence across the resting herd. This starlight reveals the graceful outlines of sleeping equids, their coats touched with frost as the nocturnal temperature continues its steady descent. Within the protective center of the cluster, the independent yearling lowers its heavy head entirely, releasing the final tension from its neck muscles. Drifting into deep, restorative sleep requires immense trust, a luxury granted only by the shared vigilance of the surrounding community. While the yearling rests its brain in restorative slumber, peripheral senses remain faintly attuned to the environment. The outer ring of mature herd members stands motionless, ears rotating independently to scan the dark horizon for any hint of movement or shifting air currents. Scientific studies of equid behavior reveal that deep, rapid eye movement sleep often occurs when individuals are physically supported by neighbors, minimizing the risk of sudden falls. Protected shoulder to shoulder, the yearling experiences this profound physiological state, breathing in a slow, untroubled rhythm that matches the peaceful stillness of the midnight hour. The crisp autumn wind quiets, leaving the plateau wrapped in an absolute, hushed serenity. Only the occasional, gentle sigh of a dreaming mare disturbs the quiet, blending seamlessly with the distant rustle of dry shrubs. Cradled safely within the collective warmth and ancient wisdom of the herd, the young equid rests undisturbed, fully restored for the dawn to come. Beneath a vast indigo sky speckled with autumn constellations, the desert air cools in a steady, restorative rhythm. At the edge of the arid basin, a dense wall of thorn scrub stands as a dark, protective silhouette against the starlight. Here, where acacia and mesquite tangle into an impenetrable thicket, the herd gathers for the quiet hours of the night. Among them is the independent yearling, no longer tethered constantly to its mother's side, yet still seeking the profound comfort of collective presence. The young equid settles gracefully into the earth, folding its long limbs beneath its warm, winter-thickening coat. It positions itself securely between two mature herd members, an older, battle-scarred mare whose stillness radiates absolute calm, and a watchful, dominant gelding. This spatial arrangement is no accident. In the intricate social hierarchy of equids, safety is measured in proximity and shared vigilance. By resting nestled within the inner circle of the group, the yearling benefits from a collective sensory shield. As the gentle wind drifts down from the upper slopes, it carries the dry, earthy scent of fallen autumn leaves and the faint, sweet aroma of crushed sage. A distant, hollow hoot of an owl resonates across the wash, blending with the steady, rhythmic chirps of late-season crickets. The yearling's large, expressive ears swivel independently, catching every whisper of the nocturnal ecosystem. It draws a slow, deep breath, feeling the secure, rhythmic thrum of mature bodies resting nearby, anchoring it safely in the quiet heart of the wilderness. In the stillness of the midnight hours, communication across the herd requires no sound at all. The yearling watches the older mare closely, observing the quiet language written in the motion of her large pinnae. These specialized ears, lined with fine hairs and richly supplied with blood vessels, can rotate nearly 180 degrees independently. They act as biological radar dishes, sweeping the darkness for any deviation in the nocturnal soundscape. When a sudden gust of wind rattles the dry acacia pods along the thorn scrub border, the yearling's ears instantly snap forward in tandem with those of the mature gelding. For a brief moment, the entire group freezes. The ears swivel backward, sideways, and forward again, triangulating the source of the friction. The yearling listens intently, learning to distinguish between the harmless scrape of a mesquite branch against stone and the heavy, deliberate footfall of a nocturnal predator. This acoustic mapping is a vital survival skill in the open basin. Equids rely heavily on their acute hearing to compensate for the limitations of night vision. Each subtle twitch of a neighbor's ear serves as a visual beacon, signaling whether a sound is benign or demands readiness. As the older mare's ears slowly relax, pointing outward in a posture of peaceful indifference, the tension drains from the yearling's muscles. The lesson is absorbed without a single vocalization. Calmness is contagious, and shared awareness weaves an invisible safety net that shelters every member under the autumn stars. Standing sentinel is an art born of patience, a delicate neurological balance between deep physical rest and unwavering environmental awareness. The yearling shifts its weight, placing one hind hoof slightly forward, mimicking the exact posture of the matriarch nearby. In this resting stance, one hind leg is locked by the patella against the femur, allowing the skeletal system to bear the animal's weight with minimal muscular effort. This evolutionary adaptation enables the equid to doze while remaining instantly prepared for flight, a crucial survival mechanism for plains-dwelling herbivores. The young donkey watches the older mare closely as her eyelids droop just slightly beneath the starlight. She is resting her mind while keeping her senses entirely open. The yearling tries to mirror this state, letting its own breathing deepen to match the slow, rhythmic cadence of the herd. Yet, every few seconds, the yearling's long ears twitch upward, checking the perimeter. Learning the art of watchfulness requires enduring repetition and quiet imitation. The elders do not rush the process. They simply provide a steady, living anchor of tranquility. As the cool autumn air settles deep into the surrounding thorn scrub, the yearling discovers the profound peace that comes from shared vigilance. Surrounded by resting bodies and watchful eyes, the young equid learns that safety is not merely about staying awake, but about trusting the community that rests beside you. The tension melts away from its shoulders, leaving behind only the gentle sway of breathing, the quiet rustle of autumn leaves, and the deep, restorative stillness of the midnight basin. Above the basin, the autumn sky unfolds in a vast, diamond-dusted canopy, untouched by clouds. Millions of distant stars cast a pale, silvery luminescence across the landscape. turning the dry grasses and gnarled thorn scrub into shades of pewter and indigo. In this quiet theater of the night, the cooling air grows still and sweet with the scent of crushed sage and frost-touched earth. Bathed in starlight, the herd drifts deeper into the restorative grace of peaceful standing sleep. Equids possess a remarkable anatomical feature known as the stay apparatus, a specialized network of tendons and ligaments in their limbs that locks the joints in place. With their skeletal framework securely engaged, the mature animals can rest their major muscle groups entirely without collapsing to the ground. They doze upright, colossal silhouettes of calm against the horizon, conserving precious energy as the temperature dips toward midnight. The yearling observes this quiet magic, letting its own body settle into the comforting geometry of the group. It tucks a hind hoof into a resting position, feeling the familiar anatomical lock take hold, easing the strain from tired limbs. The vast, open sky stretches infinitely above, offering a profound sense of scale and safety. There is no urgency here, only the steady, collective heartbeat of the herd breathing as one beneath the ancient constellations. A soft, contented sigh ripples through the assembly, carried away on the gentle midnight draft, dissolving into the immense, beautiful stillness of the sleeping wild. Amidst the silvery expanse, the quiet stillness is gently broken by the slow, rhythmic shifting of a mature mare. She takes a half step forward, her heavy coat brushing softly against the dry autumn brush, before turning her head toward the young companion at her flank. In the dim luminescence, the yearling senses the invitation long before it happens. It leans closer, lifting its head from its resting posture to meet the older animal in the protective shadows of the thorn scrub. With deliberate, unhurried grace, the mare begins to groom the yearling along its arched neck, her teeth delicately working through the thick, dust-dusted winter coat. It is a timeless ritual of social bonding and allogrooming, a behavior deeply rooted in equid society that lowers heart rates and reinforces kinship ties within the herd. The yearling closes its eyes in pure contentment, leaning its weight slightly into the comforting warmth of the older companion. It returns the gesture, gently nipping at the mare's withards in a tender display of reciprocity. This brief exchange speaks volumes in the silent language of the plains, cementing trust and emotional security as the autumn night deepens. Satisfied and thoroughly relaxed, the pair eases apart just enough to resume their shared vigil. The yearling lets out a soft, low breath that stirs the cooling air, its body once more aligning with the calm, steady rhythm of the group. Under the vast diamond-dusted canopy, enveloped in the quiet companionship of the herd, the young equid drifts back into peaceful contemplation, cradled safely within the embrace of the wild. The autumn night slowly deepens, drawing toward that quiet, pale hour just before the turn of dawn. A gentle drop in temperature ripples across the landscape, causing the dense thorn scrub to cast long, motionless shadows under the fading stars. The air grows crisp, carrying the faint, clean scent of frost gathering on distant blades of grass. Within the sheltered border of the thicket, the yearling stands steadfast. Its winter coat fluffs slightly against the cooling air, trapping body heat in a natural layer of insulation. Breathing in slow, even rhythms, the young equid remains perfectly still, a testament to the physiological capacity equids possess for resting while remaining semi-alert. Its large eyes reflect the silver-gray light of the approaching morning, scanning the horizon where the dark sky softens almost imperceptibly at the edges. Beside it, the mature mare shifts her weight, her breathing a low, steady baseline of calm that anchors the entire group. No sudden movements disturb the stillness. The distant hoot of an owl fades into the quiet, and the rhythmic hum of nocturnal insects grows fainter as the chill settles deeper into the earth. In this serene interval, the yearling embodies the culmination of the night's lessons. It holds its head at the optimal height for catching the first morning thermals, its ears pivoting independently to gather the faintest atmospheric shifts. There is no tension in its muscles, only the quiet readiness of a wild animal attuned to the cyclical awakening of its ecosystem. The world holds its breath, waiting for the first touch of amber light to grace the edge of the plains. The dawn breaks slowly over the quiet valley floor, painting the sleeping landscape in shades of slate and pale amber. A crisp morning wind sweeps down from the granite ridges, carrying the unmistakable chill of late autumn. Overnight, temperatures have slipped below freezing, and a delicate, glistening layer of silver frost now coats every dormant blade of grass and hardy shrub. Each individual leaf and stem is encased in delicate, crystalline armor, glittering under the first low rays of pale sunlight. Amidst this frozen expanse stands a maturing subadult donkey, perfectly still in the quiet air. The young equid breathes out a slow, steady plume of white vapor that drifts and dissolves into the cold atmosphere. The ambient soundscape is sparse and hushed, the soft, heavy tread of hooves upon frozen earth, the rustling of dry, frosted vegetation, and the distant, lonely call of a raptor wheeling high above the peaks. With every drop in temperature, the subadult's biology responds with quiet precision. Its skin initiates an involuntary thermoregulatory adjustment, causing the tiny erector muscles at the base of its hairs to contract. This natural piloerection fluffs the dense underfur, trapping a microscopic layer of insulating air against the skin to ward off the chill. The young donkey's coat is noticeably thicker than it was mere weeks ago, a seasonal transformation written directly into its growing anatomy. Standing motionless, absorbing the tranquil and bracing atmosphere, the subadult rests easily within the changing world, perfectly adapted to the rhythm of the turning year. Deep beneath the surface of the subadult's hide, a complex biological calendar is quietly unfolding, dictated by the shortening daylight hours of the retreating sun. Specialized receptors within the skin register the persistent drop in ambient temperature, sending signals directly to the pituitary gland. In response, this master endocrine organ alters its seasonal hormone production, gently instructing the hair follicles to shift their growth patterns. The summer coat, sleek and flat, is gradually superseded by a far more robust anatomical architecture designed specifically for harsh conditions. New hairs emerge with a specialized cellular structure, featuring an opaque medulla packed with microscopic air pockets that enhance insulation. Simultaneously, a dense, woolly undercoat develops beneath the longer guard hairs, creating a dual-layered defense against the elements. This seasonal transformation is an exquisite feat of mammalian thermoregulation. Each individual hair works in concert with its neighbors to form a dense, windproof barrier. When the crisp morning breeze brushes across the valley, it slides harmlessly over the outer tips of the fur, unable to penetrate the warm microclimate held securely against the skin. The subadult's body also deposits a thin, protective layer of natural sebum along the hair shafts, secreted by active sebaceous glands. This waxy oil acts as a hydrophobic shield, repelling the moisture of morning frost and autumn mist so that water droplets bead and roll off the surface without dampening the skin beneath. Standing in the tranquil, frost-laced meadow, the young equid wears this living garment with effortless grace. Every square inch of hide is finely tuned to the changing season, sealing in precious core warmth as the valley slowly breathes in the quiet stillness of the maturing year. With the chill of the morning air settling into its bones, the subadult lowers its muzzle toward the frost-crusted ground. Soft hoof treads on the frozen earth echo quietly as it navigates the silvery turf, searching for the remnants of resilient autumn vegetation. Unlike ruminants with multi-chambered stomachs, the donkey is a monogastric hindgut fermenter, relying on a uniquely adapted digestive tract to extract vital nutrients from tough, fibrous plants. The young equid carefully selects coarse stems and dried grasses, its flexible upper lips and strong incisors working in unison to clip the stubborn growth. Inside its mouth, specialized flat molar teeth grind the tough cellulose down into smaller, manageable fragments. As these fibrous meals travel down the esophagus and through the simple stomach, they pass eventually into an exceptionally large cecum and colon. Here, a vast, symbiotic microbial population takes over, breaking down the complex plant cell walls that would otherwise defy digestion. This microbial fermentation is a slow, methodical process, acting almost like a biological furnace. As the gut bacteria ferment the stubborn cellulose, they release chemical energy in the form of volatile fatty acids, absorbed directly through the intestinal wall into the bloodstream. These fatty acids circulate throughout the body, fueling internal metabolic heat. The process requires time and patience. The young donkey pauses, standing motionless in the pale sunlight as its digestive system works continuously to process the nutrient-poor forage. Every mouthful of dried grass contributes to an internal warmth, steadily generating the thermal energy needed to thrive as the landscape turns colder and the season deepens. As the internal furnace of digestion continues its steady work, the subadult donkey shifts its weight and steps softly toward the center of the resting herd. In the face of dropping temperatures, social bonds offer an essential layer of security and physical comfort. The herd's hierarchy, refined over years of shared survival, remains calm and predictable, anchored by the quiet presence of older, wiser companions. The young equid approaches a large, weathered mare, pausing to lower its head in a gesture of gentle submission. The older companion acknowledges the approach with a soft, low-frequency rumble from deep within her chest, a sound that resonates gently through the crisp morning air. Standing shoulder to shoulder, the two equids begin a slow session of mutual grooming, known scientifically as allo-grooming. Using their incisors, they nibble rhythmically along the base of each other's necks and withers. This tactile interaction stimulates blood flow in the skin and reinforces social stability within the group. More than just a tool for hygiene, this quiet exchange releases endorphins, lowering heart rates and fostering a profound sense of collective safety. A few paces away, the herd's stallion stands sentinel, his ears flicking lazily toward a distant raptor call overhead, but his posture remains relaxed. The subadult leans gently against the flank of the older mare, sharing the warmth of their combined body mass as the low morning sun finally touches their coats. Breathing in slow, synchronized unison, their soft snorts of breath mingle in the frosty air. Wrapped in the steady companionship of the herd, the young donkey surrenders to the profound stillness of the valley, resting deeply as the autumn day settles into its peaceful, unhurried rhythm. As the morning hours advance, the weak autumn sun climbs higher above the jagged eastern ridge, casting long, pale shadows across the valley floor. Its gentle rays begin the slow, quiet work of melting the delicate silver frost from the dormant vegetation, turning the crisp blades of grass to glistening droplets of dew. The frozen earth softens ever so slightly beneath the weight of the resting herd, releasing a rich, earthy scent of damp soil and drying stalks into the still air. Bathed in this pale, golden warmth, the subadult donkey enters a state of restful standing, a natural behavioral adaptation designed to conserve precious energy as the seasons turn. Its newly thickened winter coat catches the sunlight, absorbing the weak thermal radiation and storing it close to the skin. Within the animal's sturdy frame, the physiological processes slow to an unhurried, meditative pace. The massive hindgut continues its steady, internal fermentation, that biological furnace providing a continuous, gentle heat from within, perfectly complementing the solar warmth falling upon its back. Eyes half closed against the morning glare, the young equid drops its head slightly, resting its muzzle just inches above the thawing ground. The soft, rhythmic sound of the herd breathing together creates a soothing, ambient cadence that echoes across the meadow. Farther down the valley, a light breeze rustles the dry autumn brush, but the sound passes harmlessly over the resting animals. Here, in the quiet heart of the morning, all movement ceases. The subadult stands motionless and deeply content, anchored by the warmth of the sun and the profound restorative stillness of the maturing day. As the afternoon shadows lengthen once more across the drying valley, a subtle shift stirs the resting herd. A light, crisp breeze returns from the upper ridge, carrying the cool promise of the coming evening. Without a single sound, the matriarch takes a slow step forward, signaling the gentle migration toward the lower, protected ravine where the steep earthen walls shield the earth from the biting draft. The subadult donkey rises from the thawing soil with effortless grace, its powerful limbs moving in a steady, unbroken rhythm. It falls naturally into place behind its older companions, fully settled into the biological and behavioral transitions of the changing season. Each soft hoof tread on the hardening ground is muffled by the thick layer of fallen autumn leaves. As they descend into the natural basin of the ravine, the ambient temperature stabilizes. The young equid's dense winter coat fluffs slightly, trapping a final layer of still air against its skin to preserve its hard-earned warmth. Entering the sheltered clearing, the herd drifts into a quiet, consolidated grouping near the base of the rock wall. The subadult pauses, gently lowering its muzzle to brush against the dry, fragrant bedding of dormant brush. There is no urgency in the air, only the patient, unhurried acceptance of nature's slow descent into winter. Surrounded by the quiet presence of the herd, the young donkey lets out a long, soft breath that mists faintly in the cooling air. It stands completely still, wrapped in the profound peace of the deepening shadows, ready to rest as the day gently fades. The autumn night reaches its deepest, stillest hour just before the first faint hint of dawn touches the sky. Down within the sheltered basin of the ravine, the air settles into a quiet, breathless pool of frost-tipped chill. It is an hour of profound physiological pause, where the landscape seems to hold its collective breath. Here, sheltered by the steep earthen banks that cradle the sleeping valley, a maturing subadult donkey stands motionless in the velvet dark. As the mercury slips steadily toward freezing, the young equid experiences the stark, tactile reality of late autumn temperatures. Its body is undergoing a remarkable seasonal transformation. Beneath the surface, specialized temperature-sensing cells in the skin relay signals to the brain, prompting a fine-tuning of metabolic efficiency to preserve core warmth. Without the luxury of heavy internal fat reserves common to some northern mammals, the donkey relies on a dense, dual-layered winter coat that is now reaching its maximum seasonal thickness. The longer, coarser guard hairs lie flat against the skin, creating a windproof thatch over a dense, woolly underlayer that traps a warm pocket of air directly against the body. In the absolute quiet of the pre-dawn, every breath forms a brief, soft plume of condensation that vanishes almost instantly into the cold air. The subadult shifts its weight with slow, deliberate grace, settling into a posture of supreme energy conservation. Its hooves rest lightly upon the damp, leaf-strewn earth, cushioned by a thick digital cushion that absorbs the cold of the ground. Surrounded by the invisible, reassuring presences of the nearby herd, the young donkey surrenders completely to the stillness, anchored securely in the silent, waiting dark. Each individual hair follicle along the subadult's spine and flanks is now fully engaged in this seasonal engineering. The transition from the sleeker summer coat has been a gradual alchemy driven by shortening daylight hours, which trigger hormonal shifts within the pituitary gland. Now, the newly emerged underfur stands thick and plush, composed of millions of tiny, crimped fibers designed to interlock and capture escaping body heat through a process known as piloerection. When a gentle gust of wind sweeps down the ravine, brushing over the ridge, these specialized muscles at the base of the hairs contract almost imperceptibly, lifting the fibers just enough to maximize the insulating layer of trapped air. This living quilt works in absolute silence. Unlike the hollow guard hairs of deer, the donkey's coarse outer coat is solid and resilient, perfectly adapted to shed the biting frost and moisture of the impending dawn. Water droplets bead and roll harmlessly off the oily surface of the guard hairs, unable to penetrate the warm, dry microclimate resting safely against the skin. The donkey's dark shoulder cross, the iconic signature of its lineage, is woven from these denser, melanin-rich fibers, which absorb the earliest, invisible traces of incoming ultraviolet light to aid in passive solar warming. Standing in the tranquil dark, the young equid feels the comforting weight of this natural armor. The wind ruffles only the very tips of the outer thatch, leaving the core temperature remarkably stable. It is a masterclass in biological efficiency, shaped by millennia of evolution in arid, variable climates, perfectly equipping the subadult to greet the frozen morning with quiet, undisturbed resilience. Beneath the quiet canopy of the pre-dawn ravine, the subadult's most acute sentinels remain actively engaged while the rest of the body rests. Atop the young equid's head, two large, elegant pinnae pivot with exquisite independence, functioning as biological radar dishes tuned to the nocturnal frequencies of the wilderness. These ears, heavily supplied with specialized blood vessels and controlled by a complex network of over a dozen auricular muscles, rotate fluidly through a nearly 180-degree arc. Without turning its head, the donkey captures the faint, papery rustling of dry oak leaves cascading down the far slope, instantly distinguishing the gentle drift of foliage from the deliberate footfall of a potential hazard. The acoustic landscape is vast and layered. A distant, hollow hoot of an owl echoes softly off the limestone walls, and the subadult's left ear twitches backward to track the sound wave to its source while the right ear remains fixed forward, monitoring the gentle sway of the ravine brush. This passive yet remarkably effective vigilance requires minimal caloric expenditure. The vast surface area of the pinnae not only gathers delicate sound waves in the hushed air, but also plays a vital role in thermal regulation, though in these biting autumn hours, blood flow to the extremities is carefully conserved. Inside the ear canal, fine hairs and specialized cerumen trap any drifting dust, ensuring absolute clarity of hearing. Listening to the steady, rhythmic breathing of the herd members standing close by, the subadult processes this auditory tapestry without tension. Each subtle shift of a hoof in the gravel or soft, contented grunt from a companion is registered and integrated into a deep sense of security. The wilderness speaks in whispers, and the young donkey listens with serene, effortless grace, cradled in the profound stillness of the waning night. While the exterior senses remain softly dialed into the dim ravine, a remarkable internal transformation anchors the subadult in profound physical repose. To survive the lean months ahead, the young equid relies on an ingenious anatomical marvel known as the stay apparatus. This intricate network of specialized tendons, ligaments, and muscle sheaths allows the donkey to lock the major joints of its limbs, the shoulders, stifles, and hocks, into a stable, load-bearing column with almost zero muscular effort. Standing in the biting pre-dawn chill, the maturing animal does not need to expend valuable metabolic energy to maintain an upright posture. The locking mechanism acts as a biological brace, transferring the weight of the torso directly down the bone structure rather than relying on sustained muscle contraction. This effortless suspension permits the subadult to rest deeply while remaining entirely prepared to move at a moment's notice. A subtle shifting of weight occurs as the donkey cocks one hind hoof, resting the tip of the toe lightly against the frosted gravel while the opposite leg bears the passive load. This alternating stance distributes wear evenly across the joints and prevents stiffness in the thickening winter musculature. The body temperature remains carefully regulated beneath the dense dual-layered coat, and the heart rate slows into a steady, restorative cadence. Breathed out into the frosty air, each slow exhalation forms a tiny, fleeting wisp of mist that dissolves into the gentle wind. In this posture of complete physiological efficiency, the young donkey drifts into a state of quiet suspension, perfectly balanced between wakefulness and deep, restorative dormancy. Surrounding the resting subadult, the silent architecture of the herd provides an invisible yet palpable shield against the autumn cold. In the deepest hour before dawn, the other donkeys close the physical distance between them, standing shoulder to shoulder and flank to flank in a quiet exhibition of social solidarity. This communal grouping is far more than a behavioral preference. It is a vital thermodynamic strategy. By aligning their dense, winter-insulated bodies together, the herd reduces the total surface area exposed to the gentle wind, creating a microclimate of shared body heat within the ravine floor. There is no need for movement, restless pacing, or vocalization to cement these bonds. Instead, the profound stability of the group is maintained through subtle, tactile contact. A mature mare stands slightly ahead, her broad back breaking the draft, while a companion rests its muzzle softly near the sub-adult's withers. This gentle touch communicates reassurance, reinforcing the social hierarchy without conflict or competition. The rhythmic shifting of a hoof against the frosted gravel or a soft, low grunt exhaled into the dark serves as a quiet acoustic anchor, reminding every member of the family group that they are secure and never alone in the vast wilderness. Within this close circle, the subadult absorbs the steady, reassuring presence of its kin. The collective heartbeat of the resting herd seems to synchronize with its own slow breathing, lulling the nervous system into an even deeper state of tranquility. Wrapped in the warmth of shared companionship and protected by the silent strength of the pack, the young equid drifts peacefully toward the dawn, anchored by the enduring power of community. Above the jagged rim of the sheltered ravine, the dark obsidian sky begins to soften. A barely perceptible lightening bleeds into the eastern horizon, shifting from deep charcoal to a bruised, luminous indigo. This subtle astronomical dawn marks the quiet boundary between the darkest hours of night and the birth of a new autumn day. The temperature reaches its absolute nadir, the frozen air holding a crisp, silent tension, yet the atmosphere carries the slow, invisible momentum of change. The maturing subadult stands motionless, sensing the atmospheric shift long before the first golden rays touch the canyon walls. Its thick, newly minted winter coat, a dense underlayer of woolly down trapped beneath coarse, weather-resistant guard hairs, bulks slightly against the final frost, sealing in every precious calorie of metabolic heat. In these crucial moments before sunrise, the equid's digestive fermentation chamber within its hindgut continues to work in steady, silent rhythm, quietly processing the fibrous dormant brush consumed the evening before, steadily stoking an internal furnace designed to weather the impending winter. As the pale light seeps downward, touching the tops of frosted stones and silvered grasses, the herd stirs with a collective, unhurried grace. The mare ahead exhales a plume of warm vapor that catches the faint morning glow, and another companion shifts its weight with a dull, muffled thud of hoof against frozen earth. There is no rush, no panic in the awakening landscape, only a profound, measured readiness. The subadult blinks heavy, dark eyes, drawing in one final, deep breath of chilled mountain air, fully prepared to step forward into the changing seasons. The high, arid foothills transition in a single, breathless shift as autumn yields to the quiet dominion of winter. A delicate, powdery snow blankets the familiar rocky scrubland, softening the jagged contours of the earth in muted shades of white and gray. The air turns crisp, carrying the distant, hollow croak of a raven soaring through the pale, freezing sky. Amidst this frosted landscape stands a fully grown adult donkey, completely unbothered by the sudden plunge in temperature. The animal's survival is anchored in a remarkable physiological transformation that has quietly occurred over the preceding months. Its summer coat has been replaced by a dense, specialized winter pelage. This double-layered coat features a fine, woolly underlayer that sits directly against the skin, trapping a microscopic layer of warmed air, while coarser, longer guard hairs serve as a weatherproof shield. The individual hairs grow at a distinct angle, creating a natural thatch that effectively repels moisture from melting frost and freezing drizzle. Rain and snow simply sit upon the tips of the outer guard hairs, unable to penetrate the thick barrier to the skin below. As a gentle, whispering winter wind sweeps across the plateau, the donkey's fur remains completely undisturbed at its roots, preserving precious metabolic heat. Every strand of this winter coat is an evolutionary masterpiece of insulation. Standing motionless against the pale horizon, the adult exhales a steady plume of warm breath into the chilling air, perfectly equipped to endure the austere beauty of the cold season settling gently over the land. Stepping forward into the pristine white expanse, the adult donkey begins to navigate the uneven, frost-bound terrain with deliberate, unhurried grace. Every movement is calculated and steady, designed to expend the absolute minimum amount of energy. Beneath the heavy winter coat, a sophisticated skeletal and muscular framework absorbs the impact of the frozen earth, muffling the sound of its steps to a soft, rhythmic crunch against the crust of snow. The secret to this exceptional balance lies in the anatomy of the foot. Unlike the wide, soft-padded feet of some high-latitude mammals, the donkey's single-hoofed digits are remarkably upright and narrow, ending in a tough, elastic hoof wall. This specialized horn structure is slightly concave on the underside, acting much like a natural climbing boot. When the hoof strikes the icy soil, the rigid outer wall bears the weight, while the fleshy, shock-absorbing frog inside compresses, gripping micro-crevices in the frozen rock beneath the snow. This biomechanical design offers superior traction on treacherous, sloping ground where other animals might slip. The pastern joints flex smoothly, absorbing lateral shifts without destabilizing the heavy torso above. With each measured stride, the donkey tests the consistency of the snow-dusted path, its keen eyes and sensitive whiskers reading the subtle variations in the terrain. There is no haste in its journey, only the quiet confidence of an animal whose evolutionary history is etched into the very architecture of its limbs, moving in perfect harmony with the cold, silent world. With the ground firmly locked beneath a pristine blanket of white, the search for nourishment requires a delicate, highly specialized approach. The adult donkey pauses beside a low mound where the wind has sculpted a shallow drift. Beneath this frozen layer lie the dormant, fibrous stems of woody shrubs, their vital nutrients hidden from casual view. Relying on an acute sense of smell, the animal lowers its velvety muzzle toward the surface. Highly sensitive tactile hairs, or vibrissae, brush lightly against the ice, detecting subtle chemical signatures of buried vegetation that lie imperceptible beneath the frost. Once a promising scent is locked in, the donkey employs its remarkable upper lip. This prehensile muscle is exceptionally dexterous, capable of parting powdery flakes and coarse crusts with surgical precision. With a gentle, rhythmic scraping motion, the hoof clears away the loose surface snow, exposing the tough, woody brows. The incisor teeth, perfectly adapted for shearing fibrous plant material, snip the nutrient-rich twigs close to the stem. Because winter forage offers diminished caloric returns, this selective browsing is paired with slow, thorough mastication. The massive molars grind the coarse vegetation efficiently, maximizing the extraction of every available calorie to fuel internal metabolic heat. There is an economy in every gesture. The donkey does not paw wildly at the frozen earth like other equids might, which would waste precious physical energy. Instead, it uses minimal force, peeling back the winter blanket with quiet, deliberate patience, sustained by an ancient foraging strategy finely tuned to the austere demands of the high-altitude cold. Deep within the core of the adult donkey, a quiet biological furnace burns steadily, fueled by the slow, continuous breakdown of fibrous plant matter. Unlike simple stomach animals, the equine digestive system relies on hindgut fermentation, a specialized process housed within a capacious cecum and large colon. Here, dense populations of symbiotic microbes patiently break down the cellulose of woody winter browse, generating a significant internal byproduct, metabolic heat. This microbial fermentation acts as a constant, gentle radiator, warming the animal from the inside out and helping to maintain a stable core body temperature against the biting alpine chill. Beneath the thick insulating winter coat, a modest layer of subcutaneous fat provides an additional thermal barrier, preserving precious heat without hindering mobility. As the late afternoon shadows stretch long and blue across the snow-dusted plateau, the donkey steps away from the windswept clearing and into the natural shelter of a shallow, rocky hollow. The surrounding stone walls block the crisp winter wind, reducing convective heat loss from the surface of the dense, water-repellent hair. The herd gathers close within the lee of the slope, standing in quiet, unhurried unity. The donkey closes its eyes halfway, resting its weight evenly across all four hooves in a posture of profound relaxation. There is no shivering, no restless shifting, and no wasted motion. Every physiological adaptation, from the specialized gut architecture to the micro-layer of warm air trapped within the fur, converges in this stillness. Surrounded by the austere beauty of the freezing landscape, the animal rests in absolute tranquility, perfectly sustained by the quiet rhythms of its own biology as the winter night gently descends. Within the sheltered hollow, the adult donkey is not alone. The rest of the herd settles nearby, forming a loose, comforting cluster against the deepening cold. In the quiet alpine air, social bonds are maintained not through boisterous play, but through stillness and subtle, low-frequency communication. A companion steps closer, pressing its shoulder gently against the donkey's flank. This tactile contact shares warmth, a behavioral adaptation that reduces total surface area exposed to the chill. The donkey responds with a soft, internal breath, a low, resonant grunt that vibrates gently in its chest. This low-frequency vocalization travels easily through the cold air, carrying information about contentment and security without alerting distant predators. Soft snorts ripple through the group as individuals clear frost from their nostrils, heads nod in slow, synchronized unison, and long ears swivel independently, catching the faint whispers of the evening breeze and the distant, echoing call of a raven. These micro-movements serve as a continuous, silent dialogue, reinforcing community stability and reducing the baseline vigilance required of any single animal. By sharing the burden of watchfulness, each member of the herd conserves vital metabolic energy. They stand shoulder to shoulder, anchored by ancient evolutionary rhythms that prioritize calm cooperation over panic. As the sky shifts from bruised violet to deep indigo, the group rests as a single, harmonious unit, cradled by the quiet strength of the herd. The slanting winter light stretches long, pale blue shadows across the snow-dusted plateau. Low in the western sky, the sun casts a golden amber glow over the frosted tips of the hardy sagebrush, transforming the austere highlands into a quiet landscape of copper and cream. The crisp winter wind softens into a gentle whisper, sliding silently over the dense, insulating fibers of the adult donkey's winter coat. Millions of hollow guard hairs and the thick, woolly underlayer catch the fading amber rays, glowing softly like spun fleece. Standing in the center of the sheltered hollow, the donkey remains entirely unhurried. Its metabolic rate hums at a steady, efficient baseline, a physiological triumph of energy conservation honed by millennia of ancestral adaptation in arid, unforgiving environments. Muffled hooves rest lightly upon the packed snow, and the heavy head lowers just an inch as the evening chill deepens. Around the periphery, the herd remains unified in its stillness. A soft, dry rustling of distant dry brush fades into the deepening quiet, barely disturbing the stillness of the twilight. The donkey exhales a slow, warm breath that billows into a brief plume of mist before dissolving into the freezing air. Through the quiet stillness, the deep, resonant grunts of neighboring companions resonate softly through the ground, vibrating reassurance. With eyes half closed against the fading light, the adult donkey settles deeper into its footing. The long day of foraging and patient endurance draws to a peaceful close, leaving the animal anchored in the serene, enduring rhythm of the cold winter night. The low winter sun dips below the jagged granite horizon, painting the snow-dusted highland in strokes of violet and deepening indigo. Long, velvet shadows stretch across the frozen meadows, silencing the last muted echoes of the afternoon. On a sloping ridge whipped by the fading alpine breeze, a fully grown adult donkey pauses its deliberate foraging. For hours, its wide, flat-ground teeth have methodically ground down stubborn stalks of dry bunchgrass, initiating a slow, internal metabolic engine. Now, as the ambient temperature plummets, the donkey lifts its heavy head. Long ears swivel, one catching the whisper of the wind, the other tracking the distant, hollow hoot of a solitary owl settling into the timberline far below. A sudden shiver ripples across the animal's powerful shoulder blades, a purely involuntary neuromuscular response. Tiny erector pili muscles contract beneath the hide, causing the dense undercoat to loft and the coarse guard hairs to stand slightly on end. This physical reaction, known as piloerection, traps a microscopic layer of stagnant air against the skin, creating a natural thermal barrier against the encroaching cold. The air tastes of frost and ancient stone. Breathing out, the donkey exhales a long, soft plume of white vapor that dissolves slowly into the gathering twilight. There is no urgency in the movement, only a profound, grounded awareness of the changing season. With a gentle, deliberate shifting of hooves upon the icy ground, the adult turns its broad chest toward the lee of the ridge, preparing to join the waiting herd as the long winter night takes hold. Beneath the surface of this rustic armor lies an intricate biological architecture designed for endurance. Months ago, as the crisp days of autumn shortened, the donkey's endocrine system registered the shift in photoperiod, triggering a steady transformation of the integumentary system. The summer sleekness gave way to a formidable double coat, combining oily, water-resistant guard hairs with a densely packed, woolly underlayer of downy softness. Now, as the mercury plummets toward zero, this specialized pelage performs its silent work. Through the unconscious magic of piloerection, millions of microscopic erector pili muscles pull each individual hair shaft into a near-vertical alignment. This subtle lifting creates a microscopic labyrinth of trapped air spaces across the entire body. The donkey's own natural body heat warms this pocket of stagnant air, converting the fur into a living, portable thermal blanket that isolates the sensitive skin from the biting alpine draft. Unlike the hollow hairs of cervids, the donkey's dense fibers rely on sheer thickness and natural lanolin oils to repel both frost and the rare, freezing mist. The skin itself thickens slightly, while a specialized network of subcutaneous blood vessels constricts to minimize heat loss at the surface, redirecting precious warmth inward toward vital organs. Standing quietly against the gathering chill, the adult feels the wind slide harmlessly over the tips of the raised guard hairs. The outer shell of the body meets the freezing elements with quiet resilience, sealing in warmth while the interior furnace hums along at a steady, restorative pace. While the exterior pelage creates a barrier against the frost, The true engine of survival burns quietly within. Beneath the sturdy frame, an internal furnace begins its evening labor, fueled by the coarse, fibrous roughage gathered during the waning daylight. As the adult donkey stands in the gathering shadows, the specialized equine digestive tract embarks on a continuous cycle of fermentation, transforming austere winter forage into life-sustaining thermal energy. Unlike ruminants with multi-chambered stomachs, the donkey is a hindgut fermenter. The journey of digestion reaches its most critical phase deep within the massive cecum and the sprawling coils of the large colon. Here, billions of symbiotic microbes go to work, breaking down the complex structural carbohydrates found in dried grasses and stubborn twigs. This microbial breakdown is an exothermic chemical reaction, releasing a steady, reliable stream of metabolic heat as a natural byproduct. Hour after hour, this biological combustion chamber radiates warmth outward through the abdominal walls and deep tissues, enveloping the core in a gentle, pervasive glow. It is a slow, methodical alchemy that requires no conscious effort, turning humble nourishment into an enduring defense against the sub-zero night. Digestion becomes a hearth that never truly banks. With every rhythmic contraction of the gut, heat diffuses through the circulatory system, warming the blood before it reaches the extremities. Bathed in this profound internal warmth, the adult donkey digests the stark harvest of the frozen landscape, turning the very harshness of winter into the fuel that keeps the chill at bay. As the last amber embers of twilight slip below the distant ridge, a gentle wind begins to scour the open plateau, carrying the sharp, crystalline edge of approaching frost. Sensing the rapid drop in ambient temperature, the adult donkey raises its head, ears pivoting to catch the soft, low-frequency social calls of the herd. Without urgency, yet with absolute purpose, the leader initiates a slow, deliberate march away from the exposed scrubland toward a natural geological sanctuary. Ahead looms a weathered limestone overhang, its ancient stone roof jutting outward to form a reliable barrier against the scouring mountain gusts. The ground beneath the shelter is dry and cushioned by a scattering of wind-blown dust and fallen debris, offering immediate respite from the biting draft. One by one, the adult equids converge upon this sheltered alcove, navigating the shadows with sure-footed grace. As they arrive, the herd instinctively clusters together, tightening their spatial boundaries to maximize thermal efficiency. The physics of thermodynamic conservation take over as flank presses against warm flank, sharing radiant body heat and buffering individual exposure to the chill. This close physical proximity does more than just conserve calories. It reinforces deep-seated social bonds forged over years of shared survival. Necks gently brush and soft, comforting grunts ripple through the gathered assembly, a quiet auditory tapestry of reassurance in the deepening dark. Shielded from the wind and anchored by the comforting presence of companions, the adult donkey settles into the heart of the group, finding profound safety within the collective stillness of the herd. Night fully claims the high mountain landscape as a breathtaking canopy of brilliant stars emerges in the vast, clear, and freezing sky. The ambient temperature plummets far below freezing, yet within the protective shadow of the limestone overhang, the atmosphere remains steady and still. Deep within the center of the clustered herd, the adult donkey prepares for the long hours of darkness by transitioning into a specialized state of equine rest. Unlike many mammals that must lie down to enter deep sleep, the adult donkey utilizes an intricate anatomical marvel known as the stay apparatus. By engaging a precise configuration of tendons, ligaments, and small check apparatus muscles in both the forelegs and hind legs, the donkey effortlessly locks its major joints into place. This biomechanical locking mechanism requires virtually no muscular effort, allowing the heavy frame to rest completely without the risk of collapse. Supported effortlessly by this natural bracing system, the adult donkey's heavy eyelids grow delightfully heavy. The rhythm of deep, Slow breathing synchronizes with the gentle cadence of nearby companions, sending steady plumes of warm vapor billowing into the frigid night air. A soft shifting of hooves on the dry earth occasionally breaks the quiet, a comforting reminder of the watchful collective surrounding it. Even in slumber, the subtle tactile contact of a neighboring flank provides constant spatial awareness and reassurance. The animal drifts into a state of profound restorative tranquility under the endless winter stars, perfectly adapted to endure the coldest wilderness in absolute peace. Beneath the glittering canopy of constellations, absolute stillness settles over the limestone overhang. Yet, the deep slumber of the adult donkey is never truly unguarded. Even as the animal rests its weight upon the remarkable stay apparatus, a quiet, enduring vigilance persists within the freezing dark. Large, expressive pinny ears twitch occasionally, swiveling in independent arcs to capture the faint, distant sounds of the winter wilderness. These specialized ears, lined with fine insulating hairs and packed with a dense network of blood vessels, act as acute acoustic radar. They effortlessly tune in to the whisper of a distant owl hunting over the snow-dusted ridges or the settling of ice upon frozen branches far down the valley. This constant, low-level attentiveness is a defining trait of equine survival. Without fully waking from its restorative rest, the adult donkey processes these auditory cues, sharing a silent communication with the rest of the herd. A barely perceptible ear flick or a subtle shift of weight communicates safety to the collective, reinforcing the unspoken social bonds that hold the group together through the harshest months. As the hours of darkness stretch onward, the adult donkey remains a quiet sentinel of stability. The steady, rhythmic plumes of warm breath continue to rise into the crisp air, dissolving seamlessly into the freezing atmosphere. Bathed in the soft, silvery light of the winter moon, the landscape rests in profound tranquility. The donkey stands anchor firm against the chill, a master of endurance and calm, seamlessly holding the peaceful space of the night as the stars slowly wheel across the boundless sky. High above the silent, snow-draped valley, a pale winter moon carves a path of silvery light across an untouched expanse of white. A heavy blanket of fresh snow rests upon the earth, clinging to frozen branches and smoothing the jagged contours of the sleeping land. This deep layer acts as an acoustic blanket, absorbing the ambient sound waves and wrapping the wilderness in a profound, velvety quiet. Every terrestrial noise, the sharp snap of a brittle twig, the distant rustle of dry brush is instantly muffled by the pristine crystals. In this hushed domain, the world slows to a glacial pace. A gentle wind sweeps low across the snow crust, leaving delicate ripples that sparkle like scattered diamonds under the lunar glow. Far off, the soft, resonant call of a snowy owl drifts through the freezing air, swallowed almost immediately by the vast stillness. Against this luminous white backdrop, the dark silhouettes of the donkey herd emerge, motionless and steadfast. They have settled into a sheltered hollow on the valley floor, their bodies forming a tight, protective cluster against the midnight chill. The thick, insulating layers of their winter coats puff outward, trapping microscopic pockets of warm air against their skin in a masterclass of natural thermoregulation. Each individual hovers in a peaceful trance, perfectly adapted to endure the sub-zero temperatures without a wasted motion. Moonlight casts long, soft blue shadows stretching across the snow, framing the elder donkey at the center of the group, whose calm, steady presence anchors the entire herd in deep, restorative tranquility. At the heart of the huddled cluster stands the experienced elder, a figure carved from decades of survival and quiet resilience. A fine dusting of winter frost outlines his gray-flecked coat, highlighting the deep, weathered contours of a face that has witnessed countless snows. His long ears tilt independently, one catching the faint sigh of the wind, the other tuned to the steady breathing of the family gathered behind him. This seasoned matriarch or patriarch possesses an innate topographical wisdom, having deliberately chosen this slight depression in the valley floor to shield the herd from the biting northern draft. By reading the subtle shifts in air current and the lie of the land, he provides a natural windbreak, lowering the effective chill factor for the younger members resting in his lee. Age brings an economy of movement, a profound conservation of energy where every posture is deliberate. The elder does not pace or fret. His weight shifts ever so slightly from one hoof to the other in a slow, rhythmic cadence that communicates absolute safety to the less experienced equids. His very stillness acts as an anchor for the social hierarchy, a silent reassurance that all is well within the frozen domain. As the temperature continues its midnight descent, the elder remains a steadfast sentinel, his heavy body blocking the elements while his mind rests in a state of watchful tranquility, perfectly attuned to the slow, pulsing rhythm of the sleeping winter night. Out on the frozen valley floor, where the snow crust glints under the pale moonlight, the elder demonstrates a quiet marvel of biological engineering. To the casual observer, he appears merely to stand in deep contemplation. Yet, beneath his thick, frost-dusted winter coat, a sophisticated anatomical system is at work, allowing him to achieve profound rest without ever lying down upon the freezing snow. This marvel is known as the stay apparatus, an intricate network of specialized tendons, ligaments, and specialized joint angles in the equine limbs. With a microscopic adjustment of his posture, the elder engages these internal braces. The stifle and hock joints lock into place passively, interlocking structures that counteract the pull of gravity without requiring any conscious muscular exertion. His muscles, freed from the burden of supporting his weight, can finally soften and release the accumulated tension of the waking day. This standing sleep is an evolutionary masterpiece. For a prey animal in a winter wilderness, lying recumbent on vulnerable, ice-covered ground carries inherent risks. By utilizing the stay apparatus, the elder bypasses this danger entirely. He achieves restorative slow-wave sleep while keeping his center of gravity perfectly balanced, ready to respond instantly to any shift in the wind or the distant rustle of the forest edge. His long neck droops slightly, the heavy head dipping into a zone of peaceful slumber. Yet his stance remains as unshakable as the ancient mountains framing the valley. The physiological luxury of weightless standing provides deep rejuvenation, allowing his vital organs to slow their pace and his cells to repair, all while maintaining the dignity of a vigilant guardian beneath the winter stars. All around the anchored elder, the social fabric of the herd tightens against the plunging temperatures. In the bitter depths of a winter midnight, thermoregulation is not merely a solitary pursuit, but a communal endeavor rooted in ancient instinct. Subadult donkeys and younger members of the family group begin to shift, shuffling their hooves with a soft, muffled crunch against the crust of the snow. They press their bodies gently against the flanks of the experienced matriarchs and the steady elder, seeking the refuge of shared warmth. This clustering behavior significantly reduces the surface area exposed to the chilling ambient air. By huddling closely, the herd creates a microclimate of shared body heat, reducing individual metabolic demands when forage is scarce and the frost bites deep. As the youngsters nestle into the dense, coarse guard hairs and woolly undercoats of the adults, they absorb the radiant heat pulsing from the larger bodies beside them. Against the elder's left flank, a yearling donkey finds absolute security. Pressing close, the younger animal can feel the slow, heavy thrum of the elder's heart, a steady, low-frequency rhythm that acts as a biological anchor of calm in the silent wilderness. The steady heartbeat, combined with the gentle rise and fall of the elder's chest, communicates a profound message of safety through tactile contact. Wrapped in this woven blanket of living warmth and quiet vigilance, the younger herd members let out soft, contented sighs, their eyelids growing heavy as the profound stillness of the valley cradles them all. Midnight deepens over the snow-laden valley, wrapping the frozen world in a velvet hush. Within this profound silence, the sensory landscape narrows to the gentle, rhythmic music of resting lives. A soft, measured exhalation drifts from the elder's nostrils, forming a small plume of warm vapor that vanishes instantly into the frosty air. This slow respiration, deliberate and measured, conserves precious internal heat and energy through the coldest hours of the dark. Even in this state of deep nocturnal restoration, complete vulnerability is never an option for the prey animal. The elder's large, cup-shaped pinnae remain marvelously attuned to the environment. Every few moments, without the rest of the body stirring, these sensitive ears swivel independently. They catch the faint whisper of a gentle wind brushing through distant pine boughs, or the distant, melancholy hoot of an owl floating across the frozen expanse. This low-level vigilance operates like a quiet radar, monitoring the shadows of the silent valley while the conscious mind drifts near the border of sleep. Around the herd, movement has ceased entirely. The only sound is the collective, harmonious cadence of deep breathing, a soft, whispering tide of air rising and falling in unison with the winter night. Hooves remain still beneath the snow crust, locked in place by anatomical efficiency, sparing every calorie. Under the vast, starlit canopy, the valley rests in a state of absolute, unhurried peace, cradled by the quiet endurance of the elder and the steady pulse of the sleeping herd. High above the snow-blanketed valley, the winter stars begin to soften their brilliant, diamond-hard gaze. The midnight hours gently recede, yielding to the imperceptible, creeping tide of a new day. Along the eastern horizon, the deep obsidian of the night sky blushes into a faint, bruised indigo, whispering of the distant, rising sun. With this subtle atmospheric shift, the ambient temperature drops to its nocturnal nadir. The freezing air settles heavy and still, yet the herd remains cocooned in restorative warmth. The elder donkey, anchoring the group through hours of frost and shadow, senses the imperceptible turning of the earth. Without shifting a hoof from its locked stay apparatus, the elder's large ears tilt forward just a fraction, catching the first fragile stirrings of a pre-dawn breeze. A soft, frosted snort breaks the quiet, a gentle, resonant exhalation that clears the nasal passages before the daily rhythm resumes. Around the flanks of the venerable leader, the younger equids stir slightly in their sleep, sensing the shift in the air, yet they find no reason to rise. The dense, insulating underfur of their winter coats, fluffed to maximum capacity against the cold, holds firm, sealing their core heat inside a natural thermal barrier. The starlight fades slowly, replaced by a pale, pearlescent luminescence that spills across the pristine snowdrifts. Silence reclaims the valley, vast and undisturbed, holding the resting world in a delicate, tranquil balance as the winter dawn prepares to break. High above the valley floor, the winter dawn creeps slowly across the frozen ridge. The night air has left a shimmering crust of white frost upon every blade of dormant grass and jagged outcrop. Against the pale lavender glow of the eastern sky, a solitary silhouette stands unmoving. It is an aging donkey, a masterclass in quiet endurance, weathering the sub-zero chill with a profound, unhurried grace. With every slow exhale, a soft plume of warm breath drifts into the crisp morning wind, dissolving gently into the stillness. Decades of survival have etched themselves into the animal's powerful physical form. A dusting of silver now frames its dark, gentle muzzle, and its eyes hold the deep, steady wisdom of a long life lived beneath the open sky. To withstand the biting cold, the donkey wears a magnificent seasonal coat, a dense, double-layered defense perfected by evolution. Beneath the long, coarse outer guard hairs lies a fine, woolly undercoat. As the temperature plunges, Tiny erector pili muscles contract to lift these hairs, trapping a micro-layer of air against the skin. This natural insulation works like a thermal blanket, holding the body's precious heat close while repelling the biting frost. The ridge is entirely still, save for the settling ice cracking softly in the distance and the faint, ghostly whisper of the wind weaving through dry brush. The old donkey does not shiver. It simply absorbs the earliest, hesitant rays of the pale winter sun, standing as a timeless monument to resilience in a sleeping world. Without shifting its weight or disturbing the delicate crust of frost upon its flank, the old donkey undergoes a subtle, physiological realignment. To a casual observer, the animal simply stands still, yet beneath the leathery hide and thick winter fur, a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering is at work. This is the equine stay apparatus, a brilliant network of specialized tendons, ligaments, and check ligaments that allows the skeletal frame to lock securely into place with virtually zero muscular fatigue. For a senior equid facing the bitter chill of a winter dawn, this biological economy is nothing short of vital. By passively engaging the stifle and hock joints in the hind limbs, and utilizing a sling of thoracic muscles and ligaments in the forelegs, the donkey offloads the heavy burden of gravity. Active muscle contraction generates heat, but it also consumes precious metabolic energy, calories that are far too valuable to waste on simply holding oneself upright against the pull of the earth. Instead, the joints snap gently into a self-locking brace. The patella hooks over the end of the femur, holding the hind leg rigid without a single muscle fiber straining to maintain posture. The donkey can rest, conserve its strength, and remain vigilant against the cold without expending the vital resources needed to maintain its core temperature. It is a profound adaptation for an aging body, turning the skeletal frame into a natural suspension bridge. The soft sound of shifting hooves breaks the stillness as the donkey relaxes slightly into this skeletal embrace. A faint, low muffled snort clears its nasal passages of crisp morning air, and the animal simply breathes, suspended in a state of effortless, standing repose. Slowly, the pale winter sun edges above the jagged silhouette of the eastern ridge, casting a fragile, amber glow across the frozen plateau. Its early rays carry very little heat, yet they are enough to begin the delicate work of thawing the frost-laced landscape. As the first slant of sunlight strikes the old donkey's spine, a profound transformation begins within its coat. Evolution has shaped the equid winter coat into an extraordinary thermal barrier. Beneath the long, wind-resistant outer guard hairs lies a dense, plush undercoat of fine wool fibers. This dual-layered thatch acts as an efficient trap for a microscopic layer of still air, which is warmed gently by the skin below. But now, as the morning sun makes direct contact, the dark, coarse tips of the outer guard hairs begin to absorb the solar radiation rather than reflecting it. Through the physics of solar conduction, photon energy transforms into sensible warmth. Heat travels slowly down the shaft of each hair, sinking deeper past the protective canopy and reaching the surface of the skin. A soft sigh seems to ripple through the donkey's frame. The heavy eyelids droop slightly, half closing in a quiet, instinctual display of deep contentment. This gentle basking offers vital relief from the piercing chill that accumulated during the long hours of darkness. Without expending a single calorie of metabolic energy to shiver, the senior animal absorbs the sun's gifts. The icy stiffness in the aging joints recedes just a fraction, replaced by a soothing, ambient thaw. In this hushed sanctuary of morning light, time slows down, anchored only by the rhythmic, steady breathing of a creature perfectly attuned to the winter world. Above the quiet plateau, the air remains impeccably still and crystalline, carrying every distant vibration across the open expanse. The donkey's large, expressive pinnae, its ears, respond to this hidden symphony. supported by an intricate network of 16 specialized muscles. These long, velvety structures swivel independently, pivoting through an arc of nearly 180 degrees like living parabolic dishes. One ear cocks sharply forward, tracking the crisp, echoing snap of frozen twigs where a young foal stirs far down the slope. The other ear rotates backward, gathering the low, muffled rustle of neighboring herdmates shifting their weight against the chill. Every rustle, every murmur, is mapped effortlessly within the animal's experienced brain, reflecting a lifetime of accumulated observational skill and ecological memory. A sudden gust of wind whistles softly through the rocky arroyo, but before the breeze even touches the donkey's skin, its ears twitch in unison to catch the shift in acoustic pressure. This continuous auditory vigilance requires no wasted movement. It is a masterclass in calm, passive awareness. The donkey does not startle or turn its head. It simply listens, absorbing the acoustic signature of its world with profound serenity. In the deep quiet of the frozen morning, these sounds provide a comforting tapestry of connection. The senior equid stands as an anchor within the herd, reading the landscape not just with sight, but through the delicate art of listening. The world breathes around it, vast and cold, yet entirely known. Just beyond the reach of the elder's shadow, younger members of the herd move slowly through the thin, powdery snow cover. Their foraging is deliberate and measured, breaking the crisp surface crust with gentle sweeps of their hooves. Occasionally, one of them steps close to the senior companion, drawn by an unspoken instinct of respect and protective proximity. The aging donkey does not turn, yet it acknowledges the approach with a soft, low muffled snort that carries warmly into the freezing air. A younger companion drifts nearer, and the two animals lower their heads in a quiet moment of greeting. Their velvety muzzles touch briefly, exchanging warm breath in the sub-zero frost. This gentle, mutual sniffing reinforces deep-seated social bonds forged over years of shared endurance, all accomplished without a single wasted movement. In the complex hierarchy of the herd, the senior stands not as a ruler, but as a quiet pillar of stability. The younger equids naturally maintain a gentle, protective perimeter around the elder, shielding it from the sharpest sweep of the crisp wind. This silent companionship requires no energy-draining displays or restless shifting. Instead, it offers a profound sense of communal belonging, anchoring every member in the quiet safety of the group. As the morning light continues its slow climb across the plateau, the shared warmth of the herd provides a comforting presence against the vast emptiness of the winter landscape. Surrounded by these trusted companions, the old donkey rests easy in the gentle, enduring rhythm of community, breathing in unison with the world around it. The pale sun reaches its highest, brief arc in the winter sky, casting long blue shadows across the sparkling snow. The aging donkey shifts its weight with deliberate, calm grace, taking slow, measured steps along the familiar ridge. Each movement is a masterclass in anatomical efficiency, where every calorie is carefully weighed against the demands of travel. The frozen earth crunches softly beneath its hooves, a gentle percussion marking the slow passage of hours. The atmosphere settles into a profound, restorative stillness, preparing the landscape for the fading light. Decades of weathering have woven a deep resilience into the animal's bones, an internal fortitude honed by countless seasons of frost and thaw. Standing now in the waning warmth of the afternoon, the senior equid absorbs the last amber rays of sunlight through its thick winter coat. The herd lingers close, a quiet silhouette against the white expanse, sharing a collective peace that transcends the cold. There is no urgency here, only the profound acceptance of the natural cycle, flowing as steadily and surely as time itself. High above the frosted valley, the winter sky stretches out in a vast, diamond-dusted canopy. The The pre-dawn air is remarkably crisp, carrying a profound stillness that seems to suspend time itself. In this sheltered hollow, shielded from the distant, restless sigh of the mountain wind, an old donkey stands motionless. Decades of weathering sun and storm have etched wisdom into the gentle contours of his face, and now, under the steady gaze of the constellations, his body enters a profound phase of metabolic deceleration. At this advanced stage of senior equine gerontology, the internal furnace burns low. The thick winter coat, a dense mat of insulating guard hairs and soft underfur, holds the last traces of warmth against the chill. Yet, thermoregulation requires little effort tonight, for the cold is embraced rather than fought. His breath rises in slow, deliberate plumes, fading like ghosts into the starlight. With each measured inhalation, the old heart beats with a calm, rhythmic reverence, matching the tranquil pulse of the sleeping earth around him. He is not alone. Just beyond the margin of his dimming vision, the familiar silhouettes of the herd form a protective, living wall against the winter. Their muffled hoofsteps shift ever so slightly in the frozen soil, a subtle choreography of quiet solidarity. Through the silent air, the low, steady sound of their soft breathing creates a soothing chorus of companionship. They stand in deep, instinctive communion, their presence a comforting anchor in the quiet dark. Every sinew in the old donkey's frame relaxes into the earth's gravitational pull. The long journey, measured by countless seasons of stone and scrub, settles into a state of absolute grace, wrapped in the quiet peace of the winter night. Beneath the silver starlight, the old donkey's silhouette tells the silent history of a long and resilient existence. Decades of weathering the elements have sculpted his anatomy into something enduring, carved by sun, wind, and jagged stone. Every contour of his hide and bone speaks of survival, a living archive of countless seasons registered in sinew and tissue. In the science of equine longevity, such a frame bears the marks of a life fully spent. The long, expressive ears, once quick to twitch at the slightest desert breeze or mountain rustle, now rest in a heavy, peaceful droop, tuned only to the internal rhythm of rest. The deep hollows above his large, dark eyes hold the quiet wisdom gathered through springs of fleeting wildflowers, punishing summer droughts, and the crisp bite of autumn frosts. Each scar upon his weathered coat is a soft ledger of passage, marking where thorn bushes brushed past or where winter gales tested his balance on the rocky slopes. His skin and muscle, having adapted over generations to harsh extremes, now undergo a final, gentle settling. The thick winter pelage, layered with dense underfur to trap precious heat, drapes over a framework of bone that has carried burdens, traversed valleys, and stood resolute against time itself. There is a profound dignity in this aging structure. It is a body designed for endurance, now resting in the completeness of its journey. In this sheltered hollow, surrounded by frosted earth and enduring companions, the physical map of his life seems to blur softly into the landscape, as timeless and immovable as the stones beneath his hooves. The air in the sheltered hollow is still, holding the sweet, damp scent of crushed sage and frost-kissed soil. Here, protected from the biting ridge winds by a natural amphitheater of ancient limestone, the old donkey pauses. In the biology of advanced senility, maintaining balance requires a delicate, conscious negotiation with gravity. The proprioceptive signals traveling from his weary joints to the cerebral cortex are slow and deliberate, guiding every subtle shift of weight. With unhurried grace, he begins the ancient, instinctual descent to the earth. First, the forelegs gently yield, bending at the carpal joints with a soft, sliding whisper against the loose dirt. His heavy head dips low, the long muzzle brushing the winter-dormant grasses. For a long, suspended moment, he rests on bent knees, gathering his remaining strength as his internal metabolism shifts into its final, quiet phase. Core body temperature, long conserved by his thick winter coat, radiates softly into the immediate microclimate of the hollow. Slowly, the hindquarters ease downward. The pelvic bones and hocks settle into the welcoming embrace of the soft earth, and the broad frame rolls gently onto its side. It is a completely natural, unforced movement, stripped of any struggle or distress. The spine, which has carried him across countless miles of rugged terrain, finally finds total release from the vertical demands of the world. Stretched out upon the protected ground, his weight is fully supported by the planet he has walked for a lifetime. The ground feels cool, steady, and infinitely welcoming, cradling the heavy contours of his seasoned body in a deep and restorative quiet. Sensing the profound shift within the hollow, the surrounding herd responds with ancient, instinctual grace. Long-lived social bonds among equids are forged through decades of shared grazing, mutual grooming, and quiet vigilance against the elements. Driven by a deep, unspoken awareness, the companion donkeys begin to move. Muffled hoofsteps sound softly against the frozen turf as two elder mares and a sturdy gelding detach from the cluster near the limestone wall. Their approach is measured and entirely devoid of panic. In equine gerontology and behavioral science, herd dynamics during a companion's final hours are characterized by stoic, respectful observation rather than distress. They form a protective perimeter around the resting form, their bodies creating a thermal buffer against any stray draft of the winter wind. One by one, they lower their velvety muzzles. A soft, warm snort, a gentle plume of vapor in the starlit air, brushes against the senior donkey's flank. This tactile contact transmits low-frequency vibrations through the earth and skin, a form of somatic communication understood across generations. There is no nervous shifting, no vocal agitation. The companions simply stand close, their long ears pivoting lazily to monitor the silent valley while paying silent homage to the patriarch. By sharing their collective body heat and steady presence, they anchor him within the community right up to the boundary of existence. It is a profound display of solidarity, written in the quiet language of stillness, honoring a life deeply woven into the fabric of the herd. Encircled by the steady presence of his companions, the senior donkey surrenders completely to the profound metabolic deceleration of extreme age. In the final chapters of equine gerontology, the body naturally scales back its energetic demands, conserving every precious calorie as internal furnaces gradually dim. His breathing shifts to a rhythm so measured and serene that it mirrors the absolute stillness of the frosted valley. Each inhalation draws in the crisp winter air, warming it within the dense, protective underfur of his thick coat, while each gentle exhalation rises as a faint, ephemeral wisp that dissolves into the starlight. The mechanics of respiration become lighter, effortless, as if the ancient lungs are simply practicing the quiet art of rest. All muscular tension melts away. The heavy weight of limbs that once walked countless miles across stone and scrub now feels weightless, supported entirely by the forgiving earth of the sheltered hollow. Without the need for struggle or effort, physiological systems wind down with supreme grace. Heartbeats grow slower and deeper, pulsing like a distant, steady drumbeat echoing through the winter night. In this space of absolute tranquility, warmth radiates outward from the surrounding herd, mingling with the last embers of his own internal heat. There is no cold, only a profound, enveloping comfort. Every cellular process hums at a lower, peaceful frequency, perfectly attuned to the sleeping landscape. The miles of a long life dissolve into a deep, seamless stillness, leaving behind only the pure, unhurried cadence of existence resting deeply within the arms of the earth. High above the sheltered hollow, the brilliant winter constellations begin their slow westward tilt, yielding to the very first whispers of a new day. A pale, translucent blue light brushes the highest frosted ridge, washing the jagged stone and sleeping scrub in a quiet, silvery sheen. The transition of dawn is entirely silent, untouched by the rush of wind or the chatter of waking birds. It is a slow, painterly unveiling of the landscape. Within this gentle illumination, the donkey's journey reaches its final, perfect quiet. The ancient cellular rhythms, having gradually wound down their energy expenditure through the deep hours of the night, now settle into a motionless, seamless peace. Natural end of life in the wild is not a rupture, but a seamless return, a quiet relinquishment of form back to the greater ecosystem. The dense winter coat, which has offered insulation against countless seasonal gales, rests softly against the warming soil. Slowly, the surrounding herd lifts their heads, their dark silhouettes framed against the brightening horizon. There is no panic in their posture, only a deep, ancient comprehension written into the quiet morning air. One by one, companion donkeys lean in, pressing soft muzzles against the still flank in a final, gentle acknowledgement of a life fully completed. They breathe in the quiet scent of the earth and their companion, anchoring the moment in the steady continuity of the herd. As the sun's first golden ray touches the valley floor, the old donkey dissolves completely into the eternal cycles of the foothills. His physical form becomes a quiet gift to the earth, returning nourishment to the soil, the roots, and the hardy spring grasses yet to come. The wind stirs the frosted tips of the scrub, carrying away the last faint trace of mist, leaving behind an infinite, unbroken calm.